Jesus.
Oh, wow. Welcome, motherfuckers, to episode 66 of the Talking Shit podcast. Dr. Evil Genius is sitting in this chair right here.
Eh, and I am Captain Paul. I did not take enough headache medication to deal with your shit today, so let's get into it. There, Evil. What are we here today? What are we doing?
Yeah, we talk a lot about how much we want to be a platform that kind of brings people from the fringes.
Together.
Um, no, I mean, people bring people back from the fringes
Mm-hmm.
because, you have extremist viewpoints on both ends of the spectrum, the political spectrum, at least here in the United States. And from some of the shit that I found out this morning while I was at work,
Mm.
it's also an issue with other countries as well, and
Mm-hmm.
other nationalities. Um, yeah, demonized and demonetized. Oh yeah, let's get
Nope,
it.
they changed the rules in YouTube there, Mrs. Evil. They changed the rules, so you will not
I
get
think there is
demonetized.
a 7 second rule though.
I mean, well, congratulations. We'll have to bleep
Yeah.
this out in post.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get it. All right. Um, yeah, we've really, we built this platform on two main pillars.
Mm-hmm.
The first pillar is getting rid of the echo chamber. We don't want
Right.
to have people um just jerking each other off, because
No.
that would be pretty
Yeah, that'd be kind.
LGBT, wouldn't it be? If we were just
Jesus.
all here jerking each other off,
We're
right?
serious. Gotta have a serious conversation today, and you're just oh my god.
Yeah. Woo!
Oh Jesus.
Woo! This is the Doctor
Actually,
Evil
that
you
Jesus
get
is what got me in trouble.
right after a nap, man.
Jesus
Like,
is what got me in trouble in that video I made. But like, regardless, I
oh,
think.
we'll get there. We'll get there. Jesus.
So.
um, Shout out to my buddy Vex. Jesus. Um, but yeah, so we pride ourselves on two main pillars, and one is we're pretty much anti echo chamber here. So we want to encourage people to disagree in respectful ways.
Right.
Obviously, Captain Paul and I disagree on a variety of topics, and you see that we still do more than tolerate each other, which is something
Yeah.
that I must, like, with all the jokes and all the bullshit aside. Um, I do make it. I want to make it very clear to you guys that there is a wide difference in the viewpoints that we have on some very key topics, but the love, the brotherhood that we share is the only people that could fuck it up are one of the two of us.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and that is going to be central to the theme of today's show. The other pillar
Mm-hmm.
of this platform is that we are a pro male platform.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't that many of them. Most of the opinions that are accepted are gynocentric. That is
Yeah.
just the reality of the world. We don't really decry the fact that there are so many pro women voices, because they're there, and don't really care. We just want to have our voices be heard as well. So we don't want to silence anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to make sure that we are also heard.
Mm-hmm.
Cap, you made a video on your hockey
The
news
locker room.
channel, The Locker Room,
Right.
and you got overwhelmingly positive reactions. What was the overall point of the video?
So the overall point of the video for me was that due to Pride Night, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, just due to like LGBT plus being accepted with people with certain backgrounds, right? Is that the NHL should just do away with it altogether. It's just too much controversy because, and this is the thing, it was the third time it happened. That's the only reason I covered it on the locker room. Because, like, and that's the funny part is I made that video. I'm like, all right. Yeah, this is like the third time in a row, and I know some hockey channels just won't even have the stomach to even talk about it, whether they're pro it or against it. So, like, let me just kind of put it out here at this point. It's like, it's the third, like, I feel like it's the elephant in the room. And I feel like, just personally right now, it's not conductive at this point. It's just turning more into a sideshow act. Whereas, like, if you really want to help those communities, there's better ways to do it than just like, oh, we're having Pride Night tonight. Yank, guess not. And that's kind of one of the things. Like that's what it turned into, right? It's like we're having Pride Night tonight. We're gonna support this LGBT plus. We're gonna support this. Yank. Like that'd be if like they had like Black History Month, like they had like some historic like Willie O'Ree for Boston Bruins, right? Had him come in and they're just like, nah, we're not celebrating tonight, yank, and just like not doing it at all. And
well, they yanked the last 3 days of the month,
Yeah.
Black History Month,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Because,
that's a joke. That's a joke you can make. That's a joke you can make. I can't. I'll get canceled.
It's not really a joke. It's one of those cold truths. Okay,
cold truth.
Like let's just when the United States government said, you know what,
shit.
These niggers,
oh man,
we need to have a day. Need to have a month. How many days are in July? Nah, that's too many days. November? Nope, too many days. Can't stomach having to see these black faces.
It's gotta be little as possible. Jesus. But
how many days are there in February? Oh, there's only 28. We only have to deal with 4 clean weeks of these naggers.
I mean, I think when it kind of came down to it, the video just in totality is I made sure that like I just don't see the point of having them if you're going to schedule them and then not have them. And then and a report just came out. The NHL from this point forward, there is no more Pride Nights going forward at all this season. And we'll kind of have a deeper discussion.
Yeah, we will definitely get into that. Wayne Krenblock says, I stopped watching hockey completely in Chicago when the Kyle Beach assault thing. Can you go over that, please?
So Kyle Beach, he was a hockey player that was drafted. It was, I apologize. I think it was 2013. He was on that team as a Black Ace, which is essentially kind of like a player that's called up to be like on the practice squad equivalent for the NFL. So like didn't see any game time action. He was looked at as a decent prospect, and he was sexually assaulted. I'm trying to like see the YouTube PC.
Essayed. You just say essay.
So essayed.
It's so crazy how you can't say what things really are, otherwise they demonetize you. Come on, YouTube. How is it YouTube?
By one of the coaches on the Chicago Blackhawks staff, and then. The whole controversy with that is, and I'm a little bit gray. I'm forgetting a little bit of it, but essentially that coach went on to go coach, I think, in college or in high school, and like the Chicago Blackhawks, knowing he did that shit, gave him a letter of recommendation. And it was a whole story. Kyle's Beach career, like he had people on the team calling him the F word and like, saying he's, gay and all this stuff.
Yeah, because he was assaulted. Yeah.
Right. And it became a very, it's a black eye on the hockey community. And that's why a lot of people don't support the Chicago Blackhawks organization. That's why they had to do a whole upheaval of the front office group there, because it was just an ugly situation altogether.
I know what the recommendation letter said, Cap.
What's that?
Is that this coach really teaches the players, to how to dig deep, because they dig really deep in their pants.
All right,
this is the coach. This is the coach you want.
I'm not co-signing this shit. But yo, that's for a low T show.
And for our patrons, I'm telling you, low T show will be recorded today for you guys. All right, I'm putting it out there right now. Captain Paul and I will record. Also, he can handle a lot of sticks. Thanks, Wayne.
Man. So, anyways, it was an ugly situation. There was a black guy in the NHL and the Chicago Blackhawks as a community, so that's why that happened. But obviously, I got a lot of positive feedback. Some of the positive feedback were probably from people that completely misconstrued my fucking
Yeah,
message.
yeah. You don't want support from...
I was getting Bible quotes. I'm like, wait a minute, listen, I'm not sitting here saying spread Christianity in the NHL.
Nah, whoa.
And
Yeah.
it was just like people completely missed the point.
Missing the point, man.
And I
like,
think with
hey,
the thing with
it's like with your Stephen A. Smith video, right?
Yeah,
You're like, gotta delete that comment. Gotta delete that comment.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a weird thing about the Stephen A. Smith. Some of those comments got completely racist, and I'm like, yeah, delete. Like
the problem is the racism, which is what you're calling out. We don't need you to respond with racism in kind. Thank you very little.
But yeah, I think it was received well. But then there was also a lot of detractors, and that's why I made the follow-up video on talking shit. Because quite frankly, I don't want the locker room to be a political channel. Now, technically, you could take that video as political. That's not really the intention behind it. It's just more of me looking at the reality of the situation. But we'll kind of discuss the more particulars when we do have our guest on, because I want to give people a fair shot to give like their reasoning. But that essentially my reasoning was there's a lot of people from a lot of different various backgrounds, whether they be religious or just their country's laws, that would not really enable them to support it. So they either fundamentally don't believe in that lifestyle, right, or in that way of living, right? You can't force players to believe in something they truly don't believe in,
or to represent something when they truly don't.
Exactly, and whether you find that is ignorant or not, people do have the entitlement to their own belief system, right? Doesn't necessarily mean they're bigoted. Doesn't mean they're hateful people. I know many Christians that like, well, I still view it as a quote unquote sin, but I don't hate the person, and they'll take that person in their own life and love them for them. So I think that I really can't claim those people as bigoted. It's just honestly, it's just a core fundamental different belief system.
Right.
And I think some people got it misconstrued that I was co-signing like people just hating LGBT plus,
right, on some sort of spiritual level. Some sort of moral level. When I watched the video, I knew that it was strictly a tactical thing where, because when I looked at the situation, and remember, we covered this on TSP when the New York Rangers, because you had bad audio that was like, snap, crackling, and pops. Remember, you had the Rice Krispie treats, microphone shit going on. And then we ended up having to bail on that. Shout out to my second lady who like really tried to save the editing on that. So we scrapped it because, it's like, well, we'll put it out. And then the New York Rangers thing happened. And we're like, well, we have to, you know what I'm saying? Wayne Kremlock says, if you don't want to toe the line in pro sports, it's not like you can play in another pro league and get anywhere near the pay. So yeah, there is a pressure there. Absolutely, Wayne. Absolutely. So why are we here today? We're here today because this is really our first opportunity to really put our money where our mouth is, put our time and energy where we say that we built this platform. And we had a variety of different people respond to the second video that he made clarifying his position as basically saying this is not a moral judgment or a value judgment on the event itself. Is strictly a business thing where we already know that these teams are doing this strictly to try to get PR, and they're not going to get that. So for that reason, they should probably rethink their strategy on this. That was the message that I got. Many people wanted to take it somewhere else where that wasn't really the point, or just outright put words in your mouth or thoughts in your heart, or in the players' hearts for opting out. So of all the people who replied, there was one person in particular that disagreed with your position and then subsequently some of my positions.
Right.
And although he did use some charged language that is meant to shame or put on the defensive, for the most part, very, very respectful. He stayed on topic, stayed away from the ad hominems for the most part. And so I wanted to give him the opportunity to speak his piece on it, and to really, again, foster the kind of environment that we want here. Now, shout out to our guy, Lutch, over at the Indian Jesus podcast over there. He did a live stream where he covered a debate between an atheist and a Catholic priest, a bishop. And when you listen to these guys talk, they're having a conversation. It's not really a debate. There was no mudslinging. There was no, you believe in Sky Daddy, and the other guy is like, you heathen, you know, who's going to burn in hell for all eternity for not believing in, you know, the person I believe in, and things of that nature. There was none of that. They had a very frank discussion on spirituality and its effect on the human condition. And so we had already planned to do this show sometime last week, but it just solidified the thought that I had that it was proper, that it was the right move to make. And so I really want to allow this gentleman here to speak on yeah. So the comment name that he used was "I ran out of phrases," and we want to give him the floor. So I'm going to call you Drew because that's how I know you on Discord now. Just kind of give the peoples an understanding of who you are, good sir.
Yeah. If you go to their original videos, you'll find me as I ran out of phrases there. So you can go ahead and check me out and roast me in the comments there. I'm sure most people would probably disagree with the things I say rather than agree with them.
Yeah, but yeah, we're not here for agreements, right?
Right. Just for some quick background on where I come from, irrelevant to this. Hockey is my number one sport. Been a Blackhawks fan all my life until
R.I.P. R.I.P.
Until
we'll take care of Kane for you for the next 2 months.
That was actually what sent me over the edge with the Blackhawks. So I jumped ship in about 2015.
That's why you jumped in our comment section. Fuck you, hateful bitches.
But then, as Wayne appropriately pointed out, with the Kyle Beach scandal, you know, I was in the weeds on that one, looking at all the stuff that came out of that, and it's like, yeah, that's a team that's very difficult to root for these days. So I don't blame Wayne one bit for jumping ship there right now. I was actually probably going to invoke that whole scandal at some point during this conversation, but we'll get to that later, I suppose. But yeah, so that's just a little bit about me before we get into it. I don't know where we wanted to start as far as the videos.
No, like
go,
like you know, well, you know, did you play hockey? First of all, how old are you?
I'm in my upper 30s. Yeah, 38.
Okay, I'll be 40 this year.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we know that when we mention certain things in terms of time frame, that we have a similar understanding of history and how, you know, we came through to these days, right? So we have a little bit. Me, my number one sport is baseball. You know, hockey was like number 3 or 4 until I really started to like really understand the sport, because, you know, us black people, we can't possibly understand what's going on the ice because, you know, because we're black, according to Stephen A. Smith, allegedly. But no, I've been following the New York Rangers since 1993 under weird circumstances. I used to listen to Rangers games on the radio. And so a lot of my understanding of the game came from basically imagining the game. You know, I didn't get to actually watch a game until sometime well after after 2000. So
really?
Yeah. So actually seeing what the sport looks like was just so much better in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you know, I've always been a huge sports fan, and I will continue to be so. What's your background in hockey, Cap?
Well, I've been playing since the age of 2. I learned to skate around 2. My dad played hockey his whole life. I played it. Um, Played for various different select leagues and stuff like that. Even played for Canada for a short section of time. I mean, hockey's my number one love. I absolutely love the sport. There's so much the sport gave me, if that makes sense. So much fundamental core lessons that developed from the game of hockey, especially when it came to working together as a team, hard work. I mean, I've been a Bruins fan since I could remember, and I think that's why I started the locker room. Honestly, like it was supposed to be a complete overall sports channel, which it will probably still delve into at some point, but since hockey is just a game I can literally just like turn on the TV and just watch religiously, like and not get bored. It's literally a very, very strong passion of mine. As you know, like when we talk hockey, I get pretty like our conversations on the phone can last like an hour or 2 hours at times.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I'm just
that's a
happy
little
that I
bit
could
of
hold my
background.
own in the conversation. Like, I actually
I mean,
know
let's
what
not
the
get
fuck we're
crazy.
talking about.
Let's not. No, I'm just joking. But no, I'm just joking. But no, I think when it kind of comes down to it, hockey's been my main passion, and I mean that's why I created the locker room. I think that's why I enjoy making daily videos. Like probably after this, I'll make another video, and it's just I don't know, just very fun to talk with the hockey community and have a good back and forth. So that's kind of my background in hockey. Played high school, played college, played a little bit of junior up in Canada there for a bit at a certain section when I was like 17, right? Yeah, 17. So, there's a lot of fond memories for me. One of the, not to ramble, but one of my most fond memories of all time is like we went to Lake Placid, when the Miracle team on ice won.
80.
Um, yeah, in 1980. We I had hockey tournaments there, and we won gold there on the same ice surface. Like that was like a memory I'll always
Surreal,
have.
huh?
Yeah, dude, it was crazy, and it was just a complete overall amazing experience for me. So that's pretty much my background in hockey and why it's like my first love.
Right.
So
Uh, uh, Drew, did you gain awareness of Cap before, during, or after the original 3 minute and 14-second video where he laid out his original premise?
I would have to check my YouTube watch history, but I do know that there was at least one video I saw prior to that, which was the Stephen A. Smith video.
Ah, so
Now,
sad.
I don't even know anything about the drama that went on behind that. I believe everything you guys said about what types of comments may have came through on that. I think I may have had a throwaway line of like, "Oh, it's kind of funny to see hockey fans get introduced to Stephen A. Smith for the first time."
yeah,
But
I stopped watching ESPN because of him. Literally, he is the singular reason I stopped watching ESPN.
that is a fact. That is a fact.
So that kind of leads me to the first point that I just a throwaway point, I guess. But one of the things that kind of annoys myself and Cap, I know I'd speak for you on this, is that Cap and I, people don't understand how difficult it is to create content on YouTube. People don't understand what it is like to put out content that is like fucking A1, like, wow, I'm really proud of this. And then you get 42 views on it in 3 weeks. But then
Oh,
you
yeah.
mention some bullshit like Stephen A. Smith or some sexuality related stuff. And then what you got, almost 30,000 views on both videos?
Yeah, it's like
congrats, dude, you're going viral.
I know, but
Yeah,
like, can we go
it's
viral
like-
for the stuff that we put a lot of fucking effort into?
I mean, there's certain videos where I put a little bit more effort in that it like, okay, I will be fair here. The Pride one I did like 7 freaking times. I redid it because I was like, all right, I just want to make sure I get the message out here and people don't confuse it. And then for whatever reason, it still got confused. Maybe
Or offended.
or offended. Maybe I don't know. I just think with that subject that you're never gonna win. The ESPN video, like I just watched Stephen A's comments, got the clip, went on a little bit of a tangent, and that goes viral. Where there's been other videos I've done a little bit more heavily edited content stuff, especially on the audio side of things, which I don't get mad at it. It's just kind of comical in a way, right? Like the shit you put a lot of effort into. Maybe that gets a few hundred views, but that shit that you did in like one take, it's like over almost 40,000 views at this point. I just think it's kind of funny.
But I think, there are videos that Cap and I have done. There are live streams that we've done where like we put a lot of thought, and then we have like some really poignant moments, or sometimes like super funny, like stuff that's better than stuff that goes viral. And then it's like you don't really get a lot of recognition. But I mean, I understand that that's the business, but I guess the real frustration is that this is the stuff that people click on, and it highlights the divisions, which is, I mean, we're here to try to come to terms with some of these divisions. Now, I know when I come to this discussion today with you, Drew, I'm not looking to convert you or change your mind or anything like that. I just want to make sure that your voice is heard as authentically as you want it to be heard, and we exchange some thoughts and see if we come to some sort of understanding. Because I think that a lot of the times, and this is really the crux of my argument for today, I think that there's too much demanding of agreement and not enough just looking at it for what it is, accepting it for what it is, and then moving on. So, Drew, you saw the original video and then his clarification video, which was over 8 minutes long, or did you see them in reverse? Did you see the TSP video first, or did you come from the locker room and then see the link in the description for the TSP and then come over to that video?
I saw the 3-minute one first, then I saw the 8-9 minute one,
right?
And then after talking to you before I came on here, I wanted to see, was this a trap? What am I getting into? So I checked out probably about an hour of the
watch time.
Yeah, there you go. I probably watched about an hour of the stream you guys had talking about those videos. So
okay. Did you see any of our other content? Because sometimes it'd be good to kind of cleanse the palate by looking at some other thoughts on other subjects.
No, the only other thing would have been the Stephen A. Smith, which honestly, when I saw it, I didn't see anything bad with that. So I'm completely oblivious to whatever controversies might have come out of that.
Well, I'm as a black man, I understood why what he said and what Molly Qerim said was racist. I immediately knew it because I've known it for a long time. So to kind of give you a little bit of an understanding, it is a frequent racist joke that if you like stuff that seems to be predominantly white, you're not black enough. And so one of the long running jokes over the decades is, and feigning lack of knowledge or ignorance is a point of passion for a lot of black people. Because being educated on certain things is considered trying to act white. So if you're a black person that likes something like, hockey or Coldplay or, anime, you're not acting black enough. So he had to make sure that he stamped his blackness with, negative body language and rolling his eyes. Only thing I know about hockey is that the puck is black, meaning that, again, even in a sport where there's no racism in the game as far as the core components of the game, you're going to make yourself a racial victim and celebrate your ignorance and denigrate a sport based upon the fact that it is a predominantly white played sport. So it's been used to kind of put a racist message out there against white people, but also put out a racist premise against black people that tend to like things that are not traditionally black.
So watching the videos, and this is where let's kind of start the conversation. What is your viewpoint and what's the fix for Pride Nights? Because it seemed like you were very against getting rid of them altogether. So what would your stance? What is your viewpoint? What do you think would be a resolution to maybe, to this whole kerfuffle in the first place?
Simply keep having them.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to what some of these teams have started to do recently, where, okay, nobody's wearing the jersey, just go out there in the normal stuff. I think that is a far bigger mess up than what the Flyers did with Provorov.
And you believe that the Flyers messed up, but not forcing him to go out on the ice and skate, because he just said, I'm just not going to be a part of the skate. He did not make a public statement. He didn't make a big ballyhoo. He just stayed in the locker room until the pregame skate, which nobody watches. He just stayed in the locker room. And then other people wanted to blow it up to go, look, let me go count all the jerseys on the ice.
Let's let him expand his point, though.
Yeah.
Let's give him a chance to talk.
Yeah, I just want to know if you thought that Philadelphia, they messed up and how they messed up.
No, that's a fair question. And now I'm going to start this off by saying, I'm no expert. I don't have all the answers here. I do have strong opinions and everything, but I'm sure people that are on my side will disagree with some things that I say here and there. But yeah, regarding the Flyers, I don't know if they really messed up. I don't know if you could really say that. I'm not sure what you can really do in a situation like that when you've got a player. Yeah, we could get into the talk on, should he have been suspended a game? Should he have not been allowed to play that game if he doesn't dress? Should he have been fined? I don't know. I don't think we ever really had a chance to have those conversations, because with how fast the news cycle is, it's over and done with.
Well, not here.
We can have it here.
we can speak, because this is the home of the cold truth and the hot take, and that was a hot take. If you want to go down that line, have at it. I'm interested.
No, I mean, for a day, it was a hot topic. But then who was it next? Was it the Minnesota Wild? Were they
the New York Rangers?
No, it was the New York Rangers.
Oh, was it the Rangers? Okay, sorry, I got my timeline.
They held their Pride Night. The players came together and decided that they didn't want any one of their players singled out for vitriol and hate for not wearing a shirt. So they said, you know what? We're not gonna put, because and we talked about this recently, Cap, how a close-knit hockey needs to be for a team to be successful. Right. So, they wanted to make sure that they protected all of their players from undue, and just say, you know what, if you're going to come after us, just come after all the players. But the Rangers did go ahead with their Pride Night. The only thing that didn't happen is they didn't wear the shirts in the pregame skate that nobody watches.
Okay, so let's let them expand here. So what is your view on the Pride Night? You say they should still happen, and then with the Provorov stuff, we can kind of go into the weeds on that after the fact. But just give me your whole take on Pride Nights, where you necessarily think I'm completely wrong, and we can kind of go from there.
So just to finish, with the Rangers, I think that decision for nobody to wear the jersey is a far worse situation than just having one guy not go on the ice. Maybe the Rangers were going to have 3 or 4 guys not go on the ice. But I mean, honestly, if that's what it is, then I think those players need to own that. If you feel that strongly about not wearing a jersey, then I think that's something that you need to answer to. I was debating on if I wanted to bring this piece of it up.
Yeah, I got to ask you this question, though. Do you think that everybody needs to answer for everything that they support or don't support?
If you're going to make a protest stance like Provorov did, yeah, I think so. I think that would be fair. And he didn't go completely quiet. He gave, I think, a 1-sentence response to why he didn't go out there.
But he did not offer it. He was hounded about it because Provorov is he a third line defenseman? Provorov?
No, he's more of a second line, first line guy, especially on the Flyers. It's hard to tell because he's so bad.
But you never hear his name because he's not like Adam Fox, where he's out there scoring goals and getting a bunch of assists. So I never even heard of him until this.
He's actually he's more their top pairing guy. Now I think about it, he was drafted pretty high. He's actually a pretty good demon, but
All right. But the thing
go
is
ahead.
that he's never had so many reporters crowded around his locker ever before in his life before that.
Probably.
So it's not like he like went out there and said, "Hey," he didn't like, "Hey, press, I want to come talk to you about why I just quietly stayed back in a locker room." They instigated that, not him.
So go ahead though, Drew.
Yes, I think that's just my thoughts on the player versus team situation, where because the problem with just taking away completely, there's players in that locker room who do want to wear the jersey.
Right.
So if we're supposed to respect the people who don't want to wear the jersey, shouldn't we respect the people who do want to wear the jersey? It just seems,
Fair
I don't
point.
know, contradictory to have an all or nothing approach to that.
Right.
Yeah,
mean,
I have to agree with you.
Yeah, that's a fair
I,
point.
I have to agree with you there. And so I want to make it very clear, just as a matter of preference, personally, I'd rather not see the Pride Nights because I don't want to see it. That's just me. That being said, I understand the importance of it to other people. So I think that they should continue to go on, whether I want to see it or not. And so it goes right in line with what you just said is like, okay, so some of the players don't want to wear it, but what if other players do? And so I have my own kind of thoughts on solutions. So when we get to the solution part of the conversation, I'll offer it then. But I just wanted to let you know I do agree with you on that.
So going back to one of Paul's previous questions, or just statements to me, you wanted to know like things that I found most disagreeable with the video.
Right.
So we'll get into it. I think the biggest thing that really stuck out to me was it was primarily in the first video. I don't remember if it was in the second video or the podcast as much, but I know it wasn't addressed head on in those. And that was with the infamous analogy to the Christian night.
Right.
Now, there's two different roads to which I would disagree with it.
Okay.
My first issue with the analogy was the analogy itself went too far in its comparison. You're talking about a Christian night where they would wear, a cross on their jersey. But then you added two really key things to that, which was they would engage in Christian prayer and they would say, "I love Jesus." That is no longer an apt comparison to what happens in a Pride Night where they're just wearing a rainbow flag. Nobody's going on the ice saying, "I'm gay now." We're taking what the Pride Night was and inserting extra things into it that it never really was to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I would counter by saying that the reason why the analogy works is because they both show allegiance to a cause. So it's not like you are. Proselytizing and telling everybody that they must become Christian, but they have to show through some action, be it by words, be it by representation, that this is what we're doing, so everybody follow along and support this Christian thought, which I would be very strongly against for a variety of reasons.
So
Yeah.
I mean this is where I'll give my take on it, right? As for the Christian analogy, now the reason why I made it is there is some core parallels, and funny enough, in the comment section, it kind of proved my point in a lot of degrees, some of the fringes. When it kind of comes down to it, I was merely saying, because some people took it as me, a mass conversion, and I could get to the essence of your argument saying, like, when you say prayer and stuff like that. The message I'm kind of getting across is to some people, right? I'm not saying me, because I think my stance is pretty clear. I don't give a shit what people do in their own life. People can be happy, right? But when it comes to various different backgrounds, while you might not view, right, wearing a rainbow-colored flag or rainbow-colored jersey as necessarily scripture, some people view that as completely antithesis to who they are in their belief core system. So, like, when you get a Christian trying to, like, essentially being forced to wear a rainbow-colored flag, a rainbow-colored jersey, you're forcing that viewpoint or that belief system on them. Now, we can have there's a bigger discussion we could have whether you find that's bigoted or not. For me, just kind of looking at it from more of a neutral standpoint, I just don't like, forcing players to forcing players to essentially represent something they truly do not agree with. And that's why, for me, altogether,
or can't
all these
or they
or
can't
can't
take public stances on.
right, and for me, this is why I don't like these nights altogether. Whether it be military night, whether it be Black History Night, whether it be
Come on, you know you hate me,
Pride.
motherfucker.
Relax. Pride Night is because I feel like the well-meaningness of it, it just rings hollow when it's forced, if that makes sense. Right? Because like when the NFL, for example, had these military nights with the jets flyovers, people are like, oh my god, they really support the military. No, they don't. They're paid millions by the fucking defense, the Department
That's
of
a recruiting
Defense.
tactic.
Yeah. So like, to me, it's like,
sorry guys, we got to do some house cleaning. Either StreamYard or YouTube, get your shit together, please. We got super chats coming in. We've got comments coming in, and they're not popping up. Come on, guys. Shout out to Dan Jensen. He is the stream sponsor today. I'm sorry, Dan, that we could not recognize you earlier, but you always supporting us, and we really, really, really do appreciate it, man. Dan Jensen, we disagreed very fervently on the Ukraine Russia conflict, and did so quite publicly. And we did so with love and respect, even though we are vehemently on opposite sides as far as how we view the conflict. And so you are a very valued member of the TSP family. So yeah, thank you for that.
I mean,
Bearded Fern says, my thing is there's so much more serious shit happening in the world, and America is hung up on this shit. This is what I truly don't understand of this country. I don't mind the gays at all. Love, I guess he meant to say, live your best life and be as happy as you can. Just stop calling people names that don't agree with your lifestyle. Okay. Thank you for that, okay. Bearded Fern. Continue.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that for me, like, why the analogy works is it's kind of like the opposite side of a coin to me. While maybe I could have worded it a little bit better, I think the overall messaging gets across that for some people, and not saying I agree with it, they do view this pride stuff as a religion or as a cult, right? So for people that have a Christian faith that are vehemently against it, that's why they could oppose it. And then I'm going to just kind of come out with, and this is something I probably should have expanded on the video, and this has kind of come across. So in Russia, right, it's actually a law in Russia now, right? They passed this in, is it January or December at this point? This is why they're not going forth with the Pride Nights. In Russia, if you are seen to be supporting pro-LGBT plus stuff, pride flag, spreading quote-unquote propaganda by the Russian government, your family and you as a person can be at risk. So that's why, if you notice the trend, a lot of the teams that are abstaining from supporting these Pride Nights, like,
they're not talking that Ukraine shit either.
Who's on Minnesota? Kaprizov, right? And a couple other Russian players. Who's on the Rangers? Panarin, Trocheck. Who's on the? The Flyers. Technically, he's
also
more,
with the new player we just got from St. Louis.
And just Tarasenko, not
Tarasenko.
Not Trocheck. I'm sorry, I meant to say Tarasenko.
Say Tarasenko.
And just Shesterkin. I think when it kind of comes down to it, right? There's a reason why they're canceling it, and whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Like, yes, we live in the United States of America, but for these players, there is actual, like, life-threatening situations they could be putting their family in. Because as much as the U.S. has its problems, and I'm not saying it doesn't, I mean, in U.S., like, if Putin doesn't like you, you can get sent to Siberia, or you can get poisoned.
Or you could fall out of a window in a hospital.
The Luke Oil executive. Mysteriously, because he was
we're talking about billionaires and 100 millionaires that they seem to just fall out of windows all the time.
But I think when it kind of comes down to it, that getting back to the point though, for me, that's why the analogy works. Now I understand why maybe it could be interpreted where I'm talking about, people are converting to, like, you could have maybe interpreted that as me saying it's a conversion.
Imagine people got baptized at a hockey game.
That's that.
Oh shit.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just merely saying the different ideologies there it's just adding kind of an unneeded powder keg, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mentioned, there's two different roads I can go with,
Right.
disagreeing with this. And so the first one is really just those extra aspects, the prayer and I love Jesus. Like now we're asking them to not just wear the clothing, but emulate the behavior. So I feel like that's a distinct difference from the Pride Night. The second road is, I don't know if it's fair to just compare a Christian. So if we eliminated those two things, right, and we just brought it down to wearing a cross is comparable to wearing a rainbow jersey, I think that makes more sense to propose as an analogy. Sorry, but I still wouldn't agree that they are all that comparable in the end. You kind of hit on some of them indirectly as to why I would feel that way. We see what's happening in Russia with their various laws to where, like, you can't even, like, no gay propaganda. It's completely out. And by propaganda, we mean just saying, hey, gay people are cool. And that would be considered propaganda.
Right.
That mentality, whether we are ready to admit it here or not, is showing up in our politics here in the U.S. in particular states. There's a high number of laws and bills being proposed. I think Florida, Texas, Oklahoma are looking to remove gay characters out of books in elementary schools. There's all sorts of stuff like that happening. I think in Oklahoma, there's a law that would prevent trans surgeries for people that are even adults. Like if you're 26 or under is the age limit that they're trying to put on it.
You say your brain is still forming at 25. I think that's the
Sure. I think by then you probably have a firm grasp on your gender identity. But you are an adult at that point and should be able to make your own choices. If we're saying your brain's still developing there, then we should put a whole bunch of other things higher than 18.
I agree with you there.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, that's a whole quagmire there. Yep. But go ahead. Sorry.
So what we're seeing in Russia, is happening in the U.S. Maybe not as widespread in the country, but the LGBTQ community is being attacked politically in certain key states. Yeah, we can talk about, oh no, Provorov was canceled, but I mean, he's still a hockey player at the end of the day. Like, outside of people watching this stream right now, I don't know if anybody else in the hockey community is really talking about this anymore. By the time the playoffs roll around, this is all going to be old news. Nobody's going to hold any grudges against Philadelphia because they're out of the playoffs golfing. They're going to be trying to figure out who they're going to bring in for their second line.
They've been golfing since January. Let's get that clear.
Can I offer this to you, Drew? Can I offer this to you? You say Provorov was canceled, but Captain Paul and I know that the absolute opposite happened.
Yeah,
what happened right after? What happened right after that whole?
I'm sure. Yeah.
His jersey sold out. He was actually the highest selling jersey in the NHL.
And you could not find numbers that correlated with his jersey number or the letters that belonged to his jersey. So you couldn't even make a custom Provorov jersey. You couldn't even do that because all the letters are gone and all of the combination of his numbers are gone.
So, and let me, I guess I'll kind of, as for the certain laws in particular, right? I can understand the sentiment. Now, the only law I've really seen is the one that's if you're under 18, you can't be going through gender reaffirming surgery. I believe that was, I forget exact what state. So I'll have to kind of look into it because I don't want to talk there. Yeah, I don't want to talk out of turn here. But when it kind of comes down to the issue regarding hockey and the Pride Night stuff and whether, I mean, I know people, LGBT plus people feel attacked. I would kind of say that as mean as I'm not trying to make this sound, people aren't forced to like you. You can't force people to like you, right? Like through all walks in life, there's going to be people out there, whether for various different reasons, just will not like you, whether the way you look, the way that you talk, the way that you live your life or your religious background. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, going to a predominantly black school my first couple of years in high school. I mean, I had certain parents not like me because I was the white boy, right? And whether that's right or not,
bring that white boy home.
Yeah, there's interesting conversations, but I mean, whether it be for various different reasons, Not everyone is entitled, or I should say this, everyone is not entitled to be liked by everyone. And I would have to say, I feel like why there's such a massive pushback and why you see Provorov jerseys selling out is I feel like people feel the LGBT plus community is being kind of force fed on them. And to the point where if you do not agree with them on every single issue, you get labeled as a bigot or you get a helmet and tax, which I kind of even saw in my comment section. Like I got words put into my words put into my mouth I just truly didn't even believe in, or never even intended. And I think that's where you're seeing a lot of the pushback.
And it's happening to Provorov too. That's the problem I have with it. I think they're assuming things about him that he didn't say.
I'm one of the ones assuming about Provorov, by the way. But
yeah, I don't think that's fair. I think that we start to get into a really.
I'll offer a little concession in a second, but I'll let Paul continue.
Yeah.
I think when it kind of comes down to it is instead of, and this is why I'm glad you're on here, because like we're human beings, we can have a nice civil discourse. We're not screaming at the top of our lungs. We're not like CNN or Fox News or those like wild things that just get the other side on to yell at. I actually I want to have a genuine conversation because I do like the intention behind Pride Night. And someone who's worked as a youth hockey coach and has a lot of LGBT plus people within my own life, I definitely want to make them feel supported. It's just it's such a tricky situation in this aspect that you can't, like, people can't force their beliefs on someone else, whether that be through Christianity, whether that be if you're Islam, you're a Muslim, whether you're Judea, whether you're, you live a different alternative lifestyle. I mean, like, some people wouldn't necessarily care for the lifestyle that Dr. Evil Genius lives. Let's be quite frank.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
And
we're going to talk about that today.
I think when it kind of comes down to it, I would rather, and maybe this is just me, I would rather people be allowed to be bigots so I knew who not to fuck with. Personally.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I think you learned that one from me.
Yeah, like, I mean that. Like, I would genuinely, like, if you don't like me, don't pretend to like me. And I think with these corporations that do these Pride Nights and stuff, like, do they actually care about these communities? And honestly, no, they don't. I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, they're just a faceless corporation trying to profit off of your struggle. And that's where I feel I've kind of have a problem with these nights, is that instead of truly supporting a community, giving thousands of dollars, and I kind of made a point, I think in the second video, saying it's not like these teams, like a few $1,000s is really shit to them. And I get the idea of auctioning off jerseys, and they could definitely still do that. It's just I don't know. It rings very hollow to me and too corporate when it kind of comes like oh, this certain month of the year I'm LGBT plus, or this certain month of the year I support black people, or there's certain month of the year I support this cause. I mean, fuck that bullshit. Like, let's just support people to support people. Whatever time of the year.
Hey, Drew, do you know what Juneteenth is?
Yeah, that's basically the Black American 4th of July. What's the word I want to go for?
Well, it celebrated the freeing of the slaves.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Do you know?
Yeah. Instead of celebrating 4th of July, because that was, the white man's day of freedom from the UK, Juneteenth is the black person's free day from slavery. Yeah.
Do you know what Walmart tried to do?
Did they have the ice cream flavor?
They tried to trademark the word Juneteenth.
Oh, is that okay? Okay, yeah.
Like, we're tired of this shit, man. Yeah. Let's get to the article that you just sent to me.
Yeah, if you do a Control F and then go for 26, that'll take you right to the Oklahoma law mention.
I'm just going to kind of skim through this real quick. Republican states aim to restrict transgender health care in first bills of 2023. After a midterm election and record flow of anti-transgender legislation last year, Republican state lawmakers this year are zeroing in on questions of bodily autonomy with new proposals to limit gender-affirming health care and abortion access. More than 24 bills seeking to restrict transgender health care access have been introduced across 11 states: Kansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire. That's a surprise. Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. None of those are surprises. Bills targeting other facets of trans livelihoods have been filed in many of the same states and are expected in several others with GOP majorities. Gender-affirming healthcare providers and parents of trans youth are the primary targets of these bills, many of which seek to criminalize helping a trans child obtain what doctors and psychologists widely consider, quote, medically necessary care, end quote.
Mm-hmm. So, wait, what was? Bring that article back up. What did you want to talk about in specific regarding that? I apologize. What was?
Oh no, I was just. I think you mentioned you weren't familiar with the Oklahoma age 26 thing. It gets mentioned in there. It doesn't link to the law itself, but it is mentioned as a quick little blip.
I mean,
as an example.
I'm definitely gonna kind of read up on this and make sure I kind of get a
legislation pre-filed this week in Republican-controlled Oklahoma, which passed restrictions last year on trans participation in sports and school bathroom usage, seeks to ban gender-affirming care for patients under age 26 and block it from being covered under the state's Medicaid program.
I mean, and this is a whole conversation to have, but I'll be very blunt here. If you're gonna make it, because if the brain isn't fully formed until 25, limit everything until the age of 25. You can't sign up for the military, can't get alcohol, can't
Leonardo DiCaprio can never have sex again.
Yeah,
that's true.
Oh, dude, Jesus, he's a pedo. But like when it kind of comes down to it,
shout out to Leo.
That's a fucked up build. I'm not gonna even sit here and argue it.
And that's just kind of my point here, where that community is being targeted politically. Like we're talking about like actual human rights that they should be able to have that are being taken from them. That's far more serious than a couple of journalists sitting in front of Provorov saying, "Why did you sit out?" Now, on the flip side, I said that I might be willing to make a little concession, and you brought up the Russian aspect and how that all plays into it. That thought didn't occur to me until I think like it might have been this morning. I'm not sure. I think The Athletic put out an article specifically about that topic, and that is a very interesting point. And it very well could be why Provorov chose to do what he did.
Ovi, we did a video. Sorry to interrupt. We did a video before all of this happened. So our stance has not changed. Our stance has been firm on the spirit of this conversation since before all of this happened. Everybody was coming at Ovi, and me and you sat up here. I think it was the first time we ever covered hockey on this channel. Because we were upset with the way that Ovi was being characterized as being complicit with the war. And it's like his motherfucking family lives in Moscow. What the fuck do you want him to say?
Yeah. But you were saying that like you can see the point. You read The Athletic. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I saw that article was posted. I only saw the headline. I didn't get into the details of it or whatever. I'm not a subscriber.
Oh, okay. So like, I could probably send you a way to kind of read those articles for free.
Let's go.
I do get the gist of it. Like they're saying because of the stuff happening in Russia, that's applying pressure for that could be applying pressure for why players and teams are opting out. If you're Russian. Okay, I'll give you a pass on that. Like me giving them a pass means anything.
Now, for the purposes of this conversation, because your opinions are yours, and we want to give you the floor. So
yeah, but for everybody else on the team, it doesn't seem very American to be caving into Russian ideologies. I don't think that's a reason that these American or Canadian teams, for that matter, too. I don't think they like the Russian hockey team a whole lot either. But it just seems
they love the players on their team, and they support the players on their team, and they don't want their players on their team that they love, that they go into the trenches with, being singled out for ridicule and becoming a pariah. And I think that is the culture of hockey at every level. You need to love your teammates more in hockey to be successful than any other team sport on the planet, in my opinion.
I just don't think it's a good look for teams to be caving into Russia's demands on this type of an issue.
If in fact that is the case, right?
As for the rest of us, if we do see another Russian player sitting out, that is something to keep in mind. If journalists or hockey media members want to make sure to keep pointing that out, maybe they should make sure that people have that in the back of their minds before they jump to a conclusion. But for the other players on the team, I don't know. I just can't get behind caving to a Russian ideal like that.
So let's rush. I get the spirit of what you're saying. It's one of those things that, let's just be honest, there's people from various different countries, and Russia being one of them, and to ask a player to put their own family at risk just so we can kind of force them to pass over, like to support a certain cause, I feel is inherently selfish, because you're putting them at risk just for wearing a jersey. And I guess on the flip side of the argument is this: like, what's the problem with putting the jersey on? Well, I mean, if you don't really care about the jersey, what's the big deal if they don't put it on in the first place, right?
Right.
Like,
I keep hearing people say it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Then what the fuck are we arguing about?
And to another thing, Albert, because it's not just Russian. What if people have religious beliefs? I mean, whether they be Islamic, Christian, Jewish. What if they have core fundamental belief systems that they don't necessarily
or me? I'm not even religious, and I'm not about that rainbow shit. And I will expound. I will expound on that thought. So hold your judgments.
What I'm saying is, so when it kind of comes down to this, their core belief system, they don't really support that lifestyle. So are you saying that they should be forced and compulsory to wear those jerseys, even though it stands against exactly what they are belief-wise? Or, like, what's your opinion on that?
So with the jerseys, for me, it comes down to wearing the jersey means you accept them into your fan base. You're saying, hey, if you're lesbian, gay, bi, trans, whatever else, you're welcome to come to this game. We're glad you're here. We want more of you here. We want to grow our community. I think that's really all the jersey really represents. And so if we flip to the Christian analogy, if we were to wear a cross on the jersey, I really wouldn't take it much more than that. I would think it's a little bit silly.
Right.
Because what Christian is honestly feeling still persecuted today. And
the Christians are still persecuted. Christians still persecuted.
Around the world, yeah.
We're not sensitive to it. Yeah, we're not sensitive to it.
Around the world, there is.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be very frank here. Right?
Certain Christian denominations are persecuted more than others. Yeah, they're persecuted. It's just not fashionable to talk about it. Because it's fashionable to make fun of them right now.
When it kind of comes down to it, also Christianity, yeah, in the United States of America, yeah, maybe in Canada it's fine, but there's other countries where they're beheading people, right, just due to their.
Oh, sure. Faith. I mean, any religion would get targeted eventually in whatever country we're talking about,
right?
But I don't know if any of the the NHL demographics. I mean, it's a very, very, very Christian demographic in general.
I'm glad that you can admit that, because I think that is one of the reasons why Provorov's jersey flew off the shelves. The fans are speaking on it, and people are acting like the majority of the fans haven't spoken with their opinion, and acting like their opinion doesn't matter because it's not the progressive opinion that people want them to have. And I think that in a so-called democracy where people are supposed to have First Amendment rights to free speech, that also means not being compelled to make speech that you don't want to make for or against anything. I think that is particularly egregious when we want to talk about people's rights. Not only do gay people have the right to live the life that they want to live, other people have the right to live the life that they want to live and to make the political statements and the social statements that they want to make, whether you believe they should have that opinion or not. And that's what makes this country what it is. Because if we don't look at it this way, then we're just creating another North Korea in some way. Do you think all the people that are rolling around on the floor crying and professing your love for Kim Jong-un actually love him, I'm pretty sure more than half of the country will love nothing more than to roast that motherfucker in an open fire. But they don't have the right, they don't have the freedom to dissent. And the freedom to dissent in this country is a core right, a core value that this country was supposedly founded on. So what I'm pushing back on isn't the thought that maybe we should all give more grace to people who live alternative lifestyles. Oh, and by the way, I'm a person that lives an alternative lifestyle. More on that at 11. But at the same time, I understand that everybody has the right to their own view, and it is not up to me to decide somebody else's views or how they express themselves. That is not up to me, because then I now become the oppressor.
Mm-hmm. What I would disagree with there, nobody's really taking away Provorov's rights. He's not at all being, and we're going to assume in this case Provorov protested for non-Russian related reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an Orthodox Christian. That's why he gave his explanation.
That is unique to which country? Russia.
Yep. And they don't call him a pope; they call him something else. But he's had very terrible things to say about gay marriage. I think he's called it the apocalypse if gay marriage were to be allowed. But nobody's taking Provorov's right away to speak his mind. Nobody's taking away his right to set out a game. He's not being threatened with jail time or exportation back to Russia. He's free to do that within the country.
But you did make the case that perhaps he should have been suspended for a game, and that infringes on his First Amendment rights to free speech.
I was careful with how I worded that at the beginning. I didn't say I would definitely suspend him. I said, we could have a conversation on if he should be suspended or not, or should it be a fine, should it be nothing.
Even having the conversation, Drew, even having the conversation puts into play a slippery slope of trying to punish people for using their First Amendment rights. I didn't like it when it happened to Kaepernick. I cannot stand Kyrie Irving, but I had to stand up for him for what the New Jersey Nets did to him, which was suspending him for not saying what they wanted to force him to say, and that shit pisses me off.
I like how you still call them the New Jersey
Nets. They're the New Jersey Nets. They're the New Jersey Nets. You don't force yourself into a community that beg for you not to be there, destroy the community, and then slap that community's name on your chest. No, you're the New Jersey Nets. So what the New Jersey Nets did to Kyrie Irving, he didn't actually do anything to anybody. Then he was suspended several games, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars for not saying what they wanted to force him to say.
Right.
And I have a major problem with that. Your thoughts, Drew?
It's still not getting sent to jail. I think it's that simple.
So an injustice is not that bad, then justice is okay.
I think there's a huge difference between actually being convicted criminally versus being suspended from your job.
I mean, I think when we're getting into that type of conversation,
but does that make it right?
I mean, it is a slippery slope, because then then who is the arbiter of morality then, right? I mean, who is to decide what is right or wrong, right? So let's say we go.
We knew the Catholic Church was fucked up when they were trying to be the arbiters of that. They've always been wrong.
I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, right? If you start forcing LGBT plus and people aren't vocal supporting of it, if you're forcing, it's essentially compulsory support. I mean, then you're just going to build up more resentment. And I think this kind of comes into the problem where I face with the LGBT plus community is a lot of people just
you fumbled
within
that
community.
So bad, Cap.
This is why I said lifestyle in that video, because I knew I keep saying it.
That's why I would have kept alphabet soup. The letters don't even go together in a way that flows. So I just call it alphabet soup. But
regardless, people within that community, if you kind of force, if you're forcing your essentially way of life and how you do things down other people's throats, you're going to garner more resentment. And this is why I feel like you are seeing more how would I put this? Maybe some more anti-LGBT plus type laws. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but I think we've gotten to a point where people are just enough, and they're kind of getting tired of it. I don't see anyone going to prison in the United States for being gay. I don't see anyone being imprisoned for their sexuality. While there are some troubling laws, and I will agree with like that one law about being 26. I mean, that's a whole different fucking can of worms. Where I mean, if we're gonna make everything 26 as an adult, quote unquote, then make everything have to
should not
make
have our
everything
19-year-olds fucking dying in wars
in
and all
war
this
for
bullshit.
dying or for wars that old men that are making millions. That's a whole different discussion.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, when it kind of comes down to it, it's just people are entitled to their worldview, their own belief systems, and when we
As long as they don't do what?
as long as they don't incite violence or and are outright being hateful towards another group, like I
or
don't care.
interfering in the lives of other people. So what?
Right.
So Drew mentioned earlier about what wearing the rainbow jersey would actually, and I agree with you. You know, hey, we want you guys to know that you're welcome here. But the flip side of that is, and this is something that Cap and I talked about off air, is that one of the things that you don't see happening in sports arenas is when they scan your ticket, they don't ask you what your sexuality is, right? People who go to the game, you know, they go to the game and they're there, and it really doesn't matter one way or the other what their sexuality is. In fact, I found something very interesting before we went live today that I put in our host chat. I'm going to pull this up real quick because I'm actually quite interested in Drew's thought on this, because I had always kind of thought, I had this thought in my head, but I did not, I didn't really apply it the way it was applied here. Does anybody know who Lucas Gage is? Do you know who he is, Phrases?
Oh, sorry, Lucas Gages?
Lucas Gage.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't know who the fuck he was either, but you know, I guess he's some sort of actor here, and this was something I thought was very, very interesting. So just kind of follow me on this for a second, okay? Lucas Gage says he was dropped by an agent for not labeling his sexuality. I'm a pretty open book about most things in my life, but I have a problem with the culture of everyone needing to know everyone's business. Lucas Gage will not succumb to the pressures of labeling. The You actor told the New York Times that he feels pressured all the time to identify with certain alphabet soup labels in his career. Quote, an agent that dropped me was like, stop dyeing your hair, stop wearing weird clothes, and pick a lane. Gay, bi, or straight is too confusing, end quote. He continues, I understand representation and voices that need to be heard, but I don't want to do anything on anyone's accord but my own. Let me do it when I'm ready. And it's acting. I feel like everyone should get the opportunity to play whatever they want. I'm a pretty open book about most things in my life, but I have a problem with the culture of everyone needing to know everybody's business, and nothing can be sacred. It's a weird line that I'm still trying to figure out. So people have assumed, they said, well, you shouldn't take this role because that should be reserved for somebody of that sexuality. And he's like, you know, are you assuming my alphabet? Like, the fuck, right? So when we're talking about autonomy, and I also want to get into, because one of my good friends who is deep in the soup, right? She's deep in the soup. She had this to add, because we were talking about it last night, and I was just like, oh shit, I didn't even think about it in that way. Because one of the things that I've always suspected is that the people who are yelling the loudest are the so-called allies, but the people who are actually knee deep in it and live it and experience it, a lot of them are not pushing nearly as hard on straight people to accept or to promote or anything like this. So she says, so I was saying that some people in the queer community actually don't want people who identify strictly heteronormative and are supportive of the community to show up to things like pride parades, because then it's no longer their space, their community. Society sets up the image that we should be heteronormative, and because of that, people who don't struggle with their sexuality have all the space physically and in terms of like representation in movies and stuff. Now, I kind of disagree with that because if you look at the percentage of people who identify with the alphabet soup, they're in a lot more media than their percentages actually suggest. But she continues. Things like pride or gay bars, etc., are supposed to be safe spaces of like people. And there are other ways that straight people can advocate for the community instead of just coming to a celebration but not doing anything to help end the discrimination they face. So at least on the bottom half, Drew is doing his part. But what do you think about what she had to say and what Lucas had to say on it being an individual choice for everybody?
Yeah, with sorry, what's his name? Luca or Luke?
I think it's Lucas.
Lucas. Okay.
Lucas Gage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't read that name right.
It's already.
I read too many
in
hockey
one ear
names.
out the other.
That's what it is.
No, I mean honestly, if that does sound like discrimination if he's being dropped due to not identifying. I feel like it would be pretty standard to have a I don't want to disclose option on any type of form. Like I think like when you're signing up for like an ACT or SAT test, you know, they want to know your race and everything else. And there's always the do not want to disclose option.
Yeah.
I don't know why that wouldn't be on this guy's form. So I don't know. I don't really have any disagreement with him being upset there because it should be up to the person deciding when they want to come out.
Right.
So
Right.
100%.
But I think but the thing that really caught my eye about that article is that he was talking about the culture. And I think that one of the things that he wants to do, he just wants to do his job and he wants to rake in all the spoils, but he doesn't want to talk about his personal life because people's personal lives have become too much of the American diaspora. I mean, you saw what happened at the Oscars last year, and everybody knows. And you know, Chris Rock made a really good point. How many people do you know interview the person they cheated on about how they cheated on them on national fucking TV? Who the fuck does that? But that's what we're doing in the 2020s. Like, do you think that there is a case to be made that maybe it might be a good thing for everybody involved to follow a live and let live type of, because one of the things that I noticed, because you said that the Republicans have all of these bills and stuff like that, right? They want to restrict a bunch of rainbow stuff. Now, I'm old enough to remember when a lot of this rainbow stuff started with the two female, I think it was Britney Spears and somebody got on an award show, and then
Aguilera.
Was it or was it like Madonna? I don't know. It's one of these vapid people. They go on there and they kiss on the stage. And I remember the very next day, I was in high school. The very next day, there were girls in the locker room charging $1 for boys to watch them kiss each other in the lunchroom. We're talking about the award show was on Sunday night. And on Monday morning, or around 11 o'clock when the lunch period started, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this is like a huge movement. So it's been over 20 years of this, and you're starting to see bills like this now. I submit to you the possibility that a lot of the Republicans are like, listen, we're going to lose this war here. I was talking about, I think I said this to you directly, Drew, about the. What was that Baptist church, that Westboro Baptist,
Church, yeah.
right? And how they're
not really Christian, by the way.
They were clowned by all other Christians and all other people of other religious sects, maybe not, Muslims. Maybe Muslims were on board with them. But
Jesus,
for the most part, because they're very, very strong about their anti-alphabet soup stance. They're really strong about it to the point where they will threaten your life. But most of the Christian denominations were like, if they don't go sit down somewhere with their stupid, you're going to hell for being gay stuff, marching outside of places, right? They were a laughingstock of the Baptists and other Christian denominations and sects. Now, I knew that to be true back then, that they were they were considered to be batshit crazy. So that was a signal to me that the religious zealots at least conceded on live and let live. Like, okay, you guys do whatever you want to do. I don't care, because people have really told me so many times that it doesn't matter what they do with their lives. It doesn't affect you. And I heard that phrase, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you. Why do you care? It's not a big deal. And so they eventually said, okay, you know what? You're right. But then after they conceded that, you give an inch, they take a mile. Well, you're transphobic if you won't date a trans person. You're a this if you won't do that. And you need to promote this. And you need to, put on this shirt. And you need to, proclaim allegiance to that.
I mean,
and people are like, whoa.
I mean, I think what it kind of comes down to it, I'll be very blunt here, is our politics overall when it comes to these laws and legislation. Both sides have gotten so far right or so far left, there really is no semblance of common sense. And they understand that. I feel like the everyday American, in my opinion, is easily misled, right? To the point that...
John Morant. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, yeah, that's a whole different other situation. Like, T. Morant, raise your son. But when it kind of comes down to it, I think because the left has gone so far left in, like, pushing this down people's throats, where if you are not, like, waving that flag, wearing that T-shirt, that you are instantly a bigot, right? And then I think there's an equal amount of pushback from the right. Well, you know what? F y'all. I don't believe you should get this type of surgery done until you're 25, 26. I feel like I don't know, man. It's there is no real great answer here, because I kind of hate both parties, if I'm going to be very frank. Really hate both parties, but when it kind of comes down to it, it's kind of like the old Newton law, for every force is an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So,
let me ask you a question. Are you an active voter, Drew?
Yes.
In the general election, who did you vote for in 2008, if you don't mind me asking?
Obama.
And 2012?
I'm Democrat all the way through, if that's where we're going.
I'm getting to a place. I'm getting to a place.
Obama.
And then 2016.
Clinton.
Okay. Now, going into the 2016 presidential cycle, what did you think was the likelihood that we was going to have our first female president in Hillary Clinton?
Sorry, repeat that one more time. Going into
the 2016 election cycle, what did you think was the likelihood in percentages that we was going to have our first female president in terms of likelihood? What was the percentage that you thought going into that election cycle that she would be the first woman president in the United States?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were specifying a certain time. At the beginning, it would have been a high percentage, but on the night of, I was looking at 50-50.
Okay. Well, why did you think that it was a high percentage originally, and then why did that change?
Yeah, when it came down to Trump as the front runner for Republicans, and with Clinton, she was going against Bernie Sanders, who I felt probably stayed in there way longer than he should have. It was clear he wasn't going to get the nomination.
Would you have supported him, regardless of whether you thought he was going to get the nomination?
I was
Were you
actually
more Bernie or Clinton?
I was actually more Warren Sanders, or not Warren, Elizabeth Warren. Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, she's Native American, y'all.
Fuse them together. Yeah. No, she's not. Relax.
And honestly, I'll be open with that. Like, her taking that genetics test and what she proved, I'm going to use that very loosely, that she was 164th. It's like, why did you do that? Why did you disclose that? Just say,
she's one of the crayons in the box.
Like a reality in the U.S. is there's a large amount of people who claim that they have Native heritage. Most of those people probably got to thinking that because their parents told them that, and their parents told them that, and I'm sure that's what happened with Warren as well. But when you find out the truth, like you gotta accept it.
stop.
Like
Yeah, just
you're
stop.
not.
I mean, listen, if we're gonna go with if we're gonna go with the whole Warren thing, though, is when she applied for college, what did she say she was? Right, she used that.
Oh
to
yeah.
But she might not have done that.
I don't have any right. I don't
more to
think
Drew's
she
point.
would
I
have
don't think
done
that she was being,
maliciously.
you know, dishonest about it when she checked the box. Like he said, people are told throughout generation to generation, so you go with it.
I mean,
Yeah, it kind of became like a in vogue thing to be like, oh, my family has Native American ancestry.
I'm Cherokee because I drive a Grand Cherokee. It's just like and I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but I feel like, come on, like I look at Elizabeth Warren, does anything there sing to me Native American? No, like
no, and I fully agree. But there's some very, very pale people who are convinced of their Native American ancestry.
Yeah. So you said that the night of you thought it was more 50-50. What made you think it was going to be 50-50 as opposed to a high percentage, maybe above 70% when the election cycle started?
I'm not the way the polls were looking. Just it just continued to look like it was going to be a closer and closer race. It's just how the numbers kept coming out. Then you saw I don't know. It seemed like the scandals when they got released against Clinton hit harder than when what I would have thought would have been worse scandals against Trump would just kind of breeze over because it's like, it's just another one, whatever. I mean, it was primarily polls that I was like, oh, I might be nervous on election night this year.
Do you know when I predicted a Trump or a Trump-like figure?
When would that be?
2007. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because this goes more to Cap's point. When I was working for a Fortune 50 company doing slave labor in the middle of the night, my shifts would start at like 2:30, 2:45 in the morning. Okay? Ungodly. Most of the people that were working on the line with me were minorities, the vast majority of them Black. And all the conversations in 2007 was about the rise of this guy that was a nobody to me, Barack Obama, some guy that's a politician in Illinois. And
we knew him over here.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I'm in New York City. I'm in New York
City. I understand. Yeah.
We would get into these discussions, and they would, be really, really excited, especially the least educated among them, because they're like, yo, we're going to get this Black president. We need to all band together and we need to do this. And I'm like, number one, I don't know who this guy is. And number two, I don't trust any man on this planet, or any woman for that matter on this planet, to lead anybody ever. I don't think any of them can be effective leaders. And I'm not going to jump on this guy's bandwagon because of his skin color, because that would be racist. And so, no, I'm not on board with that. I would like to hear a speech. I think Cap will be back. I would like to hear a speech that doesn't have anything. I want to see a speech that has more than "yes, we can." I thought that he was very hollow. I thought he was very empty. And really, I saw him.
Oh.
What are you doing, Cap?
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button, dude. I'm sorry. I want to silence Black voices. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he takes the opportunity every time he can. I told you this motherfucker hates me. So I started to notice whenever I would engage in discourse with people that on a consistent basis, people would call somebody a bigot anytime they would get into any argument or discussion with anybody who did not agree 100,000% with the dark-skinned minority that was part of the conversation. And I saw it happen to white people over and over and over and over and over again. And then I had somebody at work threaten to get the shit beat out of them by me They wanted to meet after work so I can stomp them into the fucking pavement because I wasn't on Obama's jock. And I knew back then that there are people who are being silenced and they're going to sneak up on them. You know what they're saying? You know what? All right. You're telling me that my opinion and my concerns don't matter in this country because I'm not a woman or I'm not black? Okay, I got you. And then people just thought that the whole country became progressive because they shouted all of the right-wing voices into silence. But I knew better than that because I was actively engaging in conversations, trying to bring reason and trying to build a bridge so that they didn't just hate all black people they came into contact with. I wanted to show them that some people are civil and willing to reason with them. So I knew that there was another side. But a lot of the liberals just thought, well, Hillary should win 90% of the vote. And I'm like, yeah, right. So when Trump started saying things, because we've already, like here in New York, like you knew Obama, we knew Trump already, okay?
I knew Trump too.
Yeah, like we knew him. You have a Trump building in Chicago, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is, he did all his dirt right here in New York City and across the river in New Jersey and some dirt in Atlantic City. We already knew he has a 50-year record. We knew what he was about. We knew that he, if not an overt racist, he is. But just to appease the right-wingers out there that are like, oh my God, I love Trump. A lot of the anti-black stance that he took over the years, he was consistent with them for over 50 years in my city. So we New Yorkers knew who Donald Trump was long before he was on The Apprentice. But then we have people telling us what he's about. And it's like, no, we've known him for 50 years already.
Can I interject something, though? I'll be very fair. I'm not defending Trump because well, he probably does, Drew doesn't know, but you know I don't want Trump to run this fucking election cycle.
You got killed by conservatives for that take of that video.
Yeah, because I thought it was fucking stupid. But, I mean, to be very fair, both Democrats and Republicans, if we were on the clock back like 20 years, let's not say as much as accepting as they claim to be today, right?
No, so, Democrats are still racist.
I mean, so, let's just kind of keep it what it is.
Well, I believe that everybody over the age of 4 that has ever lived is a racist in one way or another. But that's a different conversation for another day.
That's a different conversation. Yeah. But I think when it kind of comes down to it is that when Trump, he did some really fucked up shit in New York and in New Jersey.
Right.
And he essentially was like redlining, right? That's what kind of
redlining was a big thing. After when the Central Park Five was accused of e-parring the white jogger, he called for them to get the death penalty, and then when it was proven that they didn't do it, he still called for them to get the death penalty after that. So the thing is with Trump, Trump was starting to say the quiet part out loud among the breadbasket of America. And when he was saying those things and I saw that people were responding to it, I said, he's going to win the presidency. But I knew that somebody would step up in his spot and win for this reason. There were a lot of white people, and I'm assuming your race because, I'm a bigot. I'm assuming your race and your gender, Drew.
White cis straight.
Right? I knew that there was a large swath of the American population because you cannot win the presidency without the support of white people. I knew that a wide swath of white people voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, specifically to try to prove to everybody that they're not racist. Yeah, and believe me, in public discourse, people would bring that up. I'm not racist. I voted for Obama twice. Trust me, I've heard all the arguments, but it was something I suspected because I didn't think he was going to win in 2008. But when he won in 2008, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me see if this happens one more time.
Mitt Romney was such a terrible candidate, and if you do recall, he had that infamous tape leak, was it about a week before a week before the election, or maybe a few days before the election, saying he doesn't give a shit about a major percentage of the people.
Right.
Yeah. So
right, Mitt 47% or some shit like that.
Yeah, Romney wasn't.
And then Hillary followed that up with the deplorables. She didn't learn the lesson. And even with that, Hillary still got 3 million more votes. But we're not going to talk about that right now. The point is,
I was going to bring that part up actually.
but the point is that I knew that there was going to be an uprising of the conservative because people were pushing them so hard for so long, for 8 years. You know, they were basically being made out to be demons simply for being white. And I'm saying that as a black man because I saw it my goddamn self. I saw it in practice. And I said, you know what? With people continuing to keep pushing them, the people are just going to silently vote the way they want to vote. And when they do, look out. And then we got the horrible demon that was Donald Trump. Now, I know that Donald Trump did a couple of good things, or like maybe 2 things that he did that I agree with in his presidency, maybe 2, possibly 3. There might have been 3 things. But the rest of it was just verbally assaulting most Americans on Twitter. Like, that's not a president. So that's when I knew back in 2007 when people wanted to end up in the hospital at my hands simply because I wasn't sucking Obama's dick because I'm black, right? So one of the things that I saw with all of these bills that you graced us with, and thank you for giving us this link to educate us on this. I'm going to pull this up one more time.
I've got more too if you want, but
no, but this proves the point. This proves the point here. The thing is that what you're seeing is a bunch of people that have the perception, whether you believe that perception is accurate or not. This is their perception, that they've been having this subject just fucking drone, like just people just won't fucking stop with this. Representation. Now it's over representation. Now we're going to put it in your face every single time. Now every commercial features either same sex and or mixed race. You don't see white families in commercials anymore, even though they're still the dominant minority. And yes, they are the minority. I think they're like 46% of the population now. They're still the dominant minority. And now it looks like they're trying to get rid of all white representation, which I have a major problem with. So what you're seeing here is not necessarily the fact that Republicans are just inherently against transgenderism, or transgenders. They're against the transgenderism. This is my analysis of it, in that people keep pushing further and further and further, and now they're pushing back with this and going all the way too far with it. Because I do believe when we're talking about bodily autonomy here, right? This kind of swayed my opinion when I saw this phrase here, bodily autonomy. I'm not sure that you should have bodily autonomy at age 6 because we don't let you eat candy for dinner or cake for lunch. And that's what kids would do if they had bodily autonomy, and we don't allow that. So there needs to be some sort of reason here. I don't know what that reason is. I don't have the answers. But when I saw this, I was like, maybe these Republicans really are massively overreaching just because of this right here. Now, what do you think of the possibility that people were like, you know what? If a dude wants to wear a dress and chop his dick off and his balls, okay, you do that over there. Just don't bring that to me. And then they just kept encroaching and kept pushing and pushing. And now they're backlashing with all of this, anti this, anti that. What do you say to that?
That's not at all an equal response.
Yeah, it's not an equal response. It's not.
No, it's not. It's not an equal response. That's not what we're claiming.
But it is human psychology, because we do this all the time. Like, men have the burden of performance, and so they had the right of leadership since the beginning of time, and now everything we see as future is female. That's an overcorrection. But you get so many people angry about being subjected to having whole family units and having somebody else work 80 hours a week instead of you, and you look at that as people. You look at being protected as oppression. Then you start to go way in the opposite direction of all men are bad and hashtag kill all men, and women proudly on Twitter announcing that they're pregnant and they're going to find out whether they're having a daughter or an abortion, right? So that's an overcorrection too. That's not. So this is just how human beings are. We don't do balance very well.
But what I'll say is I don't anticipate the Democrat Party to ever respond with laws that are going to remove all male characters from books and movies in the future that'll be displayed to kids. I just can't see this wave of political action being reversed against whatever the other side would be.
I mean,
what men over 30 years old that are Christians, like I can't see them being specifically targeted by legislation to where we're erasing their identities.
well, they kind of already are, though, maybe in subtle ways where you're having religious.
It's definitely not overt.
Yeah, like religious freedoms being infringed upon. I mean, it's like what was that? What was that baker?
Yeah, that's
talking
the
about
one
the
that
bakery?
pisses me off the most. Like
Yeah,
you're trying
the
to force somebody to bake you a cake when you can find
mean,
any
and-
baker in the world to make your rainbow cake, and you want to force this person to do it for what?
Yeah, I think when it kind of comes down to it, I understand your standpoint on it, where it's like, well, maybe the reaction isn't necessarily equal, but I would have to say,
I think we all agree on that.
I think when it kind of comes down to it, is people are getting fed up. Now, I think, like personally, I don't care. That's my stand. I do not care what people do in their own life. I don't really care. It's none of my business. But I think from the general population, they're just getting fed up, and this is why you are seeing such a reactionary take on it. And I feel like the biggest problem I have with LGBT plus is that they're a very they want to be a protective community. Like they want all the pros. How would I put this? They just want to be so protected where you can never doubt them or never talk against them in some aspects.
Can I disagree with you right there, Paul? I want to disagree with you like that because you could say that I'm part of LGBT as well because I am in a relationship with two women that are legally married to each other. Right?
Listen, the B doesn't sound for black. All right, so relax. But no.
Let's go.
But
My sister, you would never catch her with a rainbow on. She's about as lesbian as they get. You will never catch her dead in a rainbow because she's not about the movement. She's about people allowing her to live her life. So, I think that this has just kind of been the mindset of a lot of the people that I know that actually are living those lives. The vast majority of people that I hear trying to make this an issue of virtue are people who are fucking straight people, regular ass people that are going so far and beyond. But the people actually in the community, the trans people that I've met, what they're seeing out there and what they've told me is that all of the representation of what transgender life actually is, what is being shown by their so-called allies is a caricature.
I mean,
and they don't want all the stuff that you're claiming that they want.
I wouldn't completely disagree, but also I have my friend Samantha who transitioned to a woman, right? She transitioned.
I got
to
you,
a woman.
Paul. I got you.
Yeah, but like when it kind of comes down to it, like they're very, very, very into that lifestyle to the point where it's unfortunate that you can't have the same type of conversations anymore, right? Unfortunately, because it's just.
But if they were really that much into a Cap, they wouldn't still count you as a friend.
I mean, fair enough. But I think when it kind of comes down to it is that the vocal minority, maybe phrasing it a little bit better, of the group, it just kind of gets so grating on people. And that's why, like, and I'm not co-signing the shit that some of the shit that was said in the comment section. But that's why you're getting such a visceral reaction, because people are fed up with stuff being forced down their throats. And like on the flip side, that'd be like
they're not real overall fans.
Why do you think some cultures absolutely hate Christianity? Right? It's not because they believe in the faith
or hate Americans.
Because motherfuckers came to our country, forced their religion on us, and sometimes when they didn't agree to it, they would chop their dicks off because they can make people eunuch. Like
eunuchs.
That is actually a thing. And that's why there's so resentment, and like that's why they're like, okay, let's have the greater conversation with America. Like some people have resentment in America because it's like, unfortunately, we're the world police, and like, oh yeah, we have this satellite nation here. We're gonna fight this proxy war in the Middle East. We're not gonna fight it ourselves. We're gonna fund the other side. Russia's gonna fund the other, and two facts are just gonna kill each other. And then, oh my God, shocker! Al Qaeda comes and Taliban's formed, and then they try to bomb the Twin Towers. It's like a whole different thing. But it's just when it kind of comes down to it.
And then everybody hates Americans because of the foreign policy of the American government, which is a super tiny but very loud minority to government.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, the government has too much power as it is. That's why we
Yeah.
need smaller government, but that's a whole different conversation.
No, I'm saying it's a
But-
small amount of people, and
but-
when you compare them to the 340 million people
No,
that live in the
100%.
country.
Like, it doesn't represent everyone's belief systems here, and I think that's where a lot of people, you're seeing a lot of pushback. I kind of want to get back to the subject in hand, the Pride Night, 'cause that's where we started with this conversation.
Right.
For me, right, I think you can definitely have community outreach programs. I think you can have NHL teams heavily involved within that community, and like, I feel like, in my opinion, make more meaningful change. Like, maybe try to, as a whole, make hockey a more accepting group. I'm not sitting here saying there isn't faults within the hockey culture. I mean, I saw firsthand my black teammate get banana peels thrown on the ice up in Canada, which is quote unquote a unified fucking country and like anti-racist. Not so much when you go to certain areas in Canada.
Polite.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, let's cut the bullshit. Like, racism, racism and bigotry is everywhere. But I mean, I think when it kind of comes down to it, there can be more meaningful change. Now, you bring up a valid point. We are the United States of America. We should not feel infringed by any other countries. It's such a, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be like, suck a dick, Russia. But when it kind of comes down to it, like, when there's people's and families, when there's players' lives families' lives at risk, it's hard to really kind of turn a blind eye to the elephant in the room, because if
The players at risk too. Remember Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, I mean, if they can throw a Lukoil executive who is a part of the oligarchy over there that was a billionaire out a hospital.
Do you know how many oligarchs they killed? Double digits since 2020.
So
we're talking about guys with hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
And for some reason, they keep falling out of windows, Cap.
Keep windows, or they mysteriously keep eating rat poison, either or. But
one was tossed out of a window in Washington, D.C.
Yep. And that's where it kind of comes into a problem. It's like, I think hockey is a game for everyone. I think everyone is accepting the game of hockey, or should be accepting the game of hockey, because it's one of the greatest sports in the world, in my opinion. And there's nothing better, in my opinion, than like getting a team together and playing a sport and really gelling as a brotherhood. But it's just, when it kind of comes to these political issues, it's really difficult to have a concrete solution. And that's why, for me, it's like, maybe just scrap the Pride Night altogether, and in my personal opinion, scrap all the goddamn special promo nights, and make actually impacting change within the community. Make the NHL be like, like the Bruins, right? I'm a big Bruins fan. Brad Marchand is very active with LGBT+. So is Patrice Bergeron. There's a lot of players.
Is that why he's hated around the league? I'm just kidding.
No, because he won't stop licking. He won't stop licking other players. Even though he's a good player. But like, there's a lot of really good, genuine hockey players that believe in that cause, and I'm all for that. But let's, there was a really good comment.
I have a solution, Cap.
At a video that, like, everybody, like, essentially a special promotion night where they support all the causes. Like,
that was my comment, Cap. You just took my thunder.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't your comment. There was actually a video on there where it showed. It's pinned there. It's got one of the most likes. Don't be claiming my viewers.
No, but I put it. It was in a debate that I was having in your comment section on your video and also on our video. I was saying that you should have like 5 or 6 different causes for a night, including the Pride jersey. Absolutely. Now you've got a merchandising opportunity 100%. Where all of the players get to choose, right? And instead of having players singled out for not choosing the one thing that's there, give the players, like Drew said, give the players that want to rock the jersey the opportunity, and then people know who is really for them. Right. The cause is represented on the ice, but also other causes that people feel more comfortable with. So it's like, listen, it's not that I'm against your thing, is that I'm for this thing. Right? Like, because for me, I'm not against gay rights. I'm against the events. I'm against the politics of it. I'm against all of that stuff. Like, I've been in this relationship with these 2 wonderful women for over 10 years now, about 10 and a half years now. and we've been discriminated against. But it doesn't bother me because I know that we are non-monogamy. We are non-monogamous people living in a monogamous world. So it's not up to me to impose on other people and then force them to accept. My only requirement for you is that you do not interfere. When you see the ladies out there in the street together, don't harass them, don't assault them, don't give me a high five when you see me with them. Do not interfere. Just let us live our lives, and we're good, right? You don't have to like what we're doing, because one of the things that me and you have talked about is that even if you had the option, you would stick with your woman and that one woman, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I would stick with my wife. Yeah.
I would never tell Paul, well, you need, we're going to do this thing. And I would not even ask him to put himself on the line like that, to publicly support anything that I do. The only thing that I ask from him is to treat me with human decency by allowing me to live the way I want. And then we can kind of commingle on the things that we fuck with. Because one of my biggest pet peeves, and this is about the transgender, this is about the all of these stuff, the race. I think that myself, Cap, and Drew probably agree on probably at least 93% of all issues that could possibly be spoken about in the world. But we're constantly harping on this shit to the point where you have people that are making mortal enemies of their neighbors and making value judgments on somebody's personal virtue because they don't agree 100 million% on this one fucking topic or those 2 or 3 topics. That bothers me. I'm going to hop off my soapbox now.
I mean, but I think that's the biggest problem with today's civil discourse, right? Is that now that you have media and it's internet media as well, where you can kind of get in your echo chambers and just stay there instead of just like essentially assuming the worst of the other side. I mean, for example, right? Like I've talked about, I think Steven Crowder, right? He's a talented individual, but let's just call it what it is. It's an echo chamber on the conservative side. Like there's nothing that Steven Crowder says that I'm like, oh my God, that's shocking. Like nothing that comes out of his mouth, I'm not shocked. Yeah, it's like I'm not like to change your mind. It's more like affirm my fucking viewpoint, right? Because you're going against like college students who aren't really equipped to have that type of debate, yada yada yada. But then on the other side of the argument, you have the Young Turks who kind of just sling a lot of more left-leaning type bias. It's like I know what I'm going to get, and I think what this country needs more of is conversations like this. Whether, like Drew, we might not agree 100% on a lot of things, but the thing is that we're having a discussion. We're not screaming at each other, because I feel like that defeats the purpose. Like debate should be about, okay, like what do you view? What do I view? I mean, famously, right? I had an opinion on Colin Kaepernick, right? And Dr. Evil, he showed me a little bit more evidence and it like gave me a little bit more information, and I changed my stance.
Wait, are you familiar with that situation, Drew? What happened with Colin Kaepernick from beginning to end?
Is he a hockey player?
No.
that is the comment on the stream.
So Colin Kaepernick.
No, I'm fully aware of the Colin Kaepernick situation.
Okay. I was gonna say, bro. So like my original take on the Colin Kaepernick thing is like, man, he should just fucking stand for the anthem. And then you kind of look into it, and it's like he was sitting, and Nathan Boyer, I believe his name was,
Nate Boyer.
We're more respectful to kneel. And it was like, yeah, you know what? I mean, why am I getting so pissed off about this? This is stupid. I mean, like when you really think about it, the greatest thing about America is the freedom of expression. And I would say this, like the amount of backlash that man got was ridiculous. But anyways, me and Evil being able to have a civil discourse, he kind of changed my mind on the topic, right? Because
I wasn't trying to.
I mean, he wasn't trying to, but we had a conversation, and we were like, okay. And then when more information is presented to me, I will change my viewpoint if my view is wrong. I don't think there's necessarily anything inherently wrong, and that's another problem with today's society is that people just want to stick to saying like, oh, it's you can't say you're wrong, you can't be wrong. I mean, there's nothing bad with being wrong. It means you just got new information, and you kind of
I'm wrong all the time.
I mean, listen, like you're wrong 100% of the time on the show, but
especially because I'm black, and
so
you're an albino. Drew,
mean,
what did you think about my solution? Because I also want to hear any possible solutions that you had
Well,
as well.
just real quick, it's funny that the Kaepernick thing came up because I've been in many YouTube debates, believe it or not, in the comment sections of various videos. But yeah, Kaepernick comes up from time to time in those debates as well. But the one thing I always try to stress with his situation, and this is before the Russian implications came out about Provorov or whatever. Let's just go into a hypothetical and say that wasn't the case with Provorov.
Right.
The one thing I feel like everybody should be able to give credit to Kaepernick for is he actually spoke at length about why he was doing what he was doing. You might not agree with everything that he was doing, but he was telling you, this is why I'm taking these stances. This is what I'm against. This is what I'm going to do to combat this. Where you looked at like Provorov's like one-line sentence, like that's it. Like hockey players don't protest over anything, and you're sitting out now and like we just get like this little blurb, like that's all you had to offer. It was just always a interesting comparison between how the two different athletes handled their situation.
Can I address that? I want to address
sure.
that thing. So with Provorov, number one, hockey players. In fact, Connor McDavid just got fucking lambasted because he wasn't entertaining enough in between periods. That was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and everybody's like, "Well, the NHL. That's just not who hockey players are. Hockey players are about that action. They're not about talking." In Provorov's case here, and this is why Cap made the video he made in the first place. If you have a dissenting opinion on that topic, it actually doesn't matter if you say one sentence or you write a full-on fucking novel. You lose, PR-wise. You lost. Because no matter what you say, and this is why the Colin Kaepernick comparison is apt, is apropos. Because Colin Kaepernick made it very fucking clear what his position was. And whether you like it or not, Provorov did too. But you know what people did in both instances? They put words in their mouth. They put intentions on their soul. So it doesn't matter whether you say a lot or a little. If people are going to denigrate you, they're going to find a reason to. So in Colin Kaepernick's case, he said, this is about police brutality. You hate the military, right? And in Provorov's case, I support everybody's right to live the way they want. You want to get rid of gay people. And it's just like, no matter what you say, no matter how you put it, if you don't agree with that group, you're the devil.
I mean,
what I'd have to say though is with Provorov. Now I am making an assumption here, but if there was a vote to legalize gay marriage in Russia, I have a feeling I know which way he's going to vote.
I don't know that because I've never heard him spoke on that, and I can't make assumptions on what's in another man's heart because that is not up to me, and that would make me arrogant.
He says he has to stay true to his religion, and we know what the truth of his religion believes in at this point.
Yeah, but for all we know, he said that so he didn't draw the ire. He can't say, "Well, Putin's going to kill my family if I don't, if I do."
Sure, and that
so you could just throw it on the religion.
That could potentially change.
You remember Ovi? What happened to Ovi? What was Ovi's comments when the Ukraine invasion first happened?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
He was
that
real,
but that wasn't the first time that he's kind of been pro-Putinish. I think
no, but he didn't say anything pro-Putin in that comment.
No, but I'm saying I think it might have been, I want to say 2018. I think he had like a random, just out of nowhere Instagram post where it was just this big blurb about how great Putin. I think he used like
I'm pretty sure it wasn't random. I'm pretty sure it wasn't random.
Well,
nothing's ever random in Russia.
There was no like surrounding context for like, wait, why are we celebrating Putin today? I don't understand where this is coming from.
somebody sent them a photo of his kids.
I think that was in the middle of an election cycle, though, right? Where I think I don't even really
fake ass elections.
I don't even want to call them elections in Russia, but election cycle, and I think it's so. And this is where I think we kind of get into a dangerous line of thinking. Is it's very hard to just judge someone on a belief system, because there's many things about I was born and raised Catholic and all that stuff. I wouldn't really say I'm Catholic today, but it's actually funny. Usually when you're raised Catholic, you don't stay Catholic very long because of the hypocrisy from the church. That's a whole different conversation. But I think when it kind of comes down to it is, a lot of people would just view me as some massive, like, oh, I would just vote for Trump in this upcoming election if he was Republican, right? Or I would just vote this or this way because a conservative. Like, I voted both parties. I voted Democrat and sometimes conservative in others. It's like, to me, it's more about the individual. Can I get behind and what you're going to do right for this country or right for my state, right? That's my belief system.
Wait a minute. Didn't one of your black friends take you to the polls and put a gun in the small of your back and walked you to the polls in 2008?
Yeah, he said, like, yo, if you don't vote for Obama, bro, I'm capping you. But
I'm gonna make you the Kaepernick by putting the cap in your ass.
I mean, and I think when it kind of comes down to it, it's like, yeah, we have public statements that we can kind of maybe guess, but we truly don't know. And to me, to kind of make somewhat of be a little bit relatable here, it's like I had a lot of people in that comment section assuming that I was a big Bible thumping conservative, that I hated I hated LGBT plus and all this stuff, and just putting,
even though you said the exact opposite in the video.
In the video, I know, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, like, we can't just judge off of maybe a public statement. What they say publicly might be far different from what they say privately. Or let's say the Christianity, the Orthodox Christianity is his thing. Doesn't necessarily that he's against gay rights at the same time, because I know a lot of Christians, right, that may not necessarily agree with that way of life. They will still vote Democrat because they believe those people have the right to choose the way they want to live. And that like, it's not just a give or take, 100% give or take there. Like, there is areas of gray where people will understand, like, well, my belief system, I don't necessarily I'm not in agreement with it. I view it as a sin, but at the same time, they have the freedom to live the life how they want to live it. And I've seen that far more. Like, I'll be honest with you, I've seen far more closed-minded people, and just in my own experience, I've seen far more closed-minded people from the very, very local minority of left-wing circles than conservative circles.
I totally agree.
Because when I try to you try to have a good, healthy debate. I mean, there's issues that I disagree with a lot with a lot of conservatives. We'll still at least have the dialogue, where when I've noticed with left-leaning people. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general. It's more an hominin attack, saying you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, and all like everything underneath the sun. And it's like, whoa. Like, I just said, like, the sky is blue, relax. And that's where I think today's current day civil discourse is at an all-time low. And this is why you probably have these laws passing. This is why you have probably more anti-LGBT plus sentiment, because now every time they're having a discussion, if you don't agree with them 100% in lockstep, now you're a bigot. And people don't like that. And that's where I think we're kind of unfortunately getting at. If we could just get back to being a little bit more down the middle, understanding that every single human being has the right to their own worldview and that we can't infringe on another person's lives, we would be far better off in this country, because we have far bigger issues like infrastructure, education, healthcare. We could go on and on. We're going to be paying probably billions to billionaires to pay out these banks.
Yeah, we're going to cover that in tomorrow's show.
Video. I have a whole problem with that.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm a more conservative leaning person. I won't even say I'm conservative, but I'm a more right leaning person.
Well, you was before we started the show.
But I'll be very frank. If we're paying out billionaires to bail out these banks like Silicon Valley, I'm like, yo, just wipe the college debt then, fuck it.
Like, No, dude, don't blow your load.
Sorry.
That's for tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
Well, and now hang on real quick. I might be mistaken on this. I didn't read it that thoroughly, but I'm pretty sure I saw a headline of a particular Republican governor who is blaming the Silicon Valley failure on being too woke. So
yes, I read the article. There's several instances, and one of the things that I saw actually had some merit to it. I believe they went without a chief risk officer for almost a year because they refused to hire a male. They only would hire a female, and they could not find a female for the role, so they left the role unfilled for almost a year. And what brought the bank down? The type of risk that they had. So there was, and we're going to talk about that more at length. But I think that really, what Paul is really putting out there, I agree with mostly, maybe not 100%, but mostly, that a lot of what we're getting with these bills that are being brought, it actually starts with the type of politicians that are being put into Congress. Do you think that we should have more Lauren Boeberts? Do you think that we should have more Marjorie Taylor Greens in Congress, Drew?
No.
Absolutely not.
But how do we fucking get there? Because we're not listening to people. We're just calling them names and judging them. And we're not trying to have a conversation where we get to understand where they're coming from and where they may be misguided. Because people don't do well when you raise their defenses. Once you get them defensive, there's no reasoning with them at that point. It's a wrap.
Yeah, conversation just shuts
It's
down.
gone. It's done.
Because now you're not having a dialogue. Oh, you're attacking me? Well, fuck
yeah,
you.
I'm attack you.
One thing I want to kind of get into, I don't know if that picture is a complete one as far as how we got to where we are, because it's very turn-based, like an RPG. It's like, oh, the Democrats had their turn and they called us bigots. So now us as the Republicans, we're going to throw laws against them. Like, it's this stuff is all happening simultaneously. It's all at the same time.
No, I mean the people that they vote for and the platforms that they run on. And then you get these fucking wackos that don't know shit about shit, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is one of the most unintelligent people I've ever heard talk in the public circle. But how do you get somebody like her? Because she keeps pushing this, oh, look, everybody, I'm anti-woke. And they stole the election and all this bullshit. And that's her whole platform is that. How does she end up in office?
No, I mean, now at this point, I'm way out of my depths. In no way am I qualified to speak to this. I don't know if you guys would even necessarily be qualified either. I mean, I'll take kind of a lazy way out and say, I think social media is a big issue with things. You're talking about echo chambers. My YouTube feed is very refined.
You mean that it's a lot of like left-wing stuff? I used to be a co-host on a show called Black Power Magic Hour on Act.tv. Do you know Act.tv?
No, I don't know that one.
Sorry. They're really big in progressive circles. I co-hosted a show with a good friend of mine for almost 2 years, almost exactly 2 years.
But I think
I'm the left-wing guy on this platform, by the way.
I remember you mentioning that in our off camera, but the Young Turks got mentioned. But even them, I try to stay away from like the hyper partisan left.
The Hassan Pike.
I probably do. Who?
He's such a terrible person. Oh my god.
I don't. But yeah, the Young Turks, like that stuff's too far out there. I probably represent a lot of their ideals, but when you get into the very like clickbaity headlines, that stuff starts to fall apart. Mm-hmm. But then
what do you think that does to what do you think that does to your views and how other people perceive your views when you see the clickbait and the fear mongering?
For the other side, I don't think it really. I don't know. I don't know how much of an impact. Oh, for I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that it gets people to dig in a little bit tougher into their positions that they probably already have preconceived. And
totally agree.
I think with I'm going to focus in on the trans specifically. Okay. I think on the right side, you see a lot of fear mongering about that. We're talking about, the left is pushing it on us, but I don't know if that's responsible for all of the backlash that the trans community is seeing today. Simply because a lot of the rhetoric coming from the right isn't so much about, oh, we're tired of this trans stuff shoved in our face. It's more, these trans people are grooming our children. They're going to a completely different route to ban the trans presence out of school systems under the notion that it's a act for grooming.
I
mean,
think do you think
I
like the
I
fucking
think,
the what do they call it, the what are the
Don't say
guys that
gay.
no,
Oh,
the
no, sorry,
people
sorry.
the people that dress up as women,
The drag
drag.
shows.
right,
Yeah,
like
that's
I,
part of it for sure.
I think that like a reasonable person can think a man dressed up as a woman and shaking their ass in children's faces, that is unacceptable, because if a woman
I would say
got
the
up
same
there
thing,
in the
yeah.
same clothing and shook her ass in the kids' faces, that would also be unacceptable.
I mean, I can't indicate what, and this is where to me, this is my stance on it, right? If you are a ally and you want to take your kid to a drag show, while I might not necessarily agree with it because a lot of sexual stuff happens there, just like a strip club would regular. I feel like it's not a place for kids, but like that's your right as a parent if you want to.
I guess,
And a
real
lot
quick,
of
like
drag queens also feel that way, and there is now a contingent of drag queens who are lobbying the government to ban the stuff out of schools and to ban children from those establishments, which are usually clubs and cabaret bars.
But I think when it kind of comes down to it is like when you start making it like happen at public school settings, I get for the purpose of maybe inclusivity, but I mean, I don't know. Parents do have the right to raise their kids how they want to raise them. And that, I don't know, just some of that stuff that I see is a little bit over the top. Now, I will agree with you in this aspect. Some of the conservative stuff can be extremely heavy-handed and necessarily painting a picture that isn't really there. But there is some troubling stuff that does happen within those circles. Just in my eyes, I would say this: if like a young kid going to Hooters, for example, it's like I don't really think that's a place for a kid, in my opinion. It's like just like let a kid be a kid, figure out like have candy, make a sandcastle, play with dolls, play with Tonka trucks. Like we don't need to be forcing a bunch of narrative down these kids' throats. Like if they grow up and they get their certain belief system, cool, fine with it. But
Or they realize their sexuality on their own accord.
Yeah, like but when we start forcing this stuff down kids' minds at a very young age, it just confuses them. And I feel like we just need to let kids be kids and don't force sexuality on kids at such a young age because they really don't really grasp the concept. Like they're just learning at like 4 to 6. They're just learning how to socialize themselves and how to like oh well I can't push other people if I'm mad, right? Like they're
Right.
learning basic human interaction. Let's not throw in a bunch of other stuff in there.
I can't play with that
really
toy when
confuse them.
somebody else is playing with it.
Yeah,
But no,
like-
continue. Can you finish your thought, Drew?
I don't know if the stuff is as dangerous as it's being made out to be. Like if I were, I didn't get exposed. I'm guessing a lot of us, all three of us here, probably didn't get that much exposure to LGBTQ stuff as kids, just because
I did, and I'm still haunted by it. Like I remember this fucking weird ass guy was like switching his, like we used to look out the window in the Bronx when we lived on the west side of the Bronx. Oh my God, I'm still scarred. My sister's still scarred by it, what we saw. Oh, that shit was crazy. But because the thing is, what we saw was a mimicking, like a caricature of what this guy thought women were, and this is like in the 1990s.
Right.
This guy would do this, and he would basically be trying to go over the top and trying to mimic what he thought femininity was according to what he saw in his environment. And it was pretty traumatizing as a kid. My sisters will attest to that. My gay sister she mentioned that dude like a few weeks ago when she came to my house. I was like, oh shit, that guy really fucked this up.
And I guess I would say like that hasn't impacted your sexuality or your gender identity. It hasn't impacted any of that, has it?
I don't think so, but I can't
turned
speak
him
for
probably
somebody else. I can't speak for
baller.
somebody else because kids are impressionable. So we can't say that, like for instance, right? Our society tells Black girls that they need to be strong and independent and they don't need no man. Now, does that mean that no Black girls ever get married and have families? No, but now it's a very small percentage, and it's so not in line with all of the other races in the country that you can say that these girls were impressionable when they saw these shows and they heard these songs that bashed men all the time and said that you don't need them. And now 80% of our children are born out of wedlock in the Black community. So I believe that children are impressionable enough where you can put an idea in their head, and some of them will take root in some of them. And over time, if it becomes the dominant pervasive premise, then you're going to see more and more people subscribing to it that might not have done so otherwise.
Is that what you're going to see, or are you actually going to see, if we had a more open society that actually openly accepted trans people,
I
would
think
you just
that we
see
were
more
headed
people
there.
being able to be free to not opt? That's the wrong word.
I thought we were going to get there in like that 2010 to 2015, but what I thought derailed that, and this is just my opinion, I think that the pushing of, okay, live and let live is not good enough. Now we need to teach your kids this stuff. We need to bring them to gay weddings. We need to do this. Then we need to keep pushing. Oh, and then now you have these voices say, if you're a man that refuses to date trans, you're transphobic. And then you get more of these voices out there. I think that when people started reaching over the middle and, you know, kind of going over it, I think that killed the opportunity for the kind of sexuality utopia that you were alluding to, because I thought that we would end up getting there once we got to live and let live. But now we're well past that.
You mentioned bringing kids to gay weddings. Is that something that you see as
a problem? Absolutely. Because you're giving to them, you're not letting them discover the sexuality on their own. You are putting the idea in their head. And teachers are doing it at school too, and I just don't think that's not what you should be teaching kids at that point. You should be teaching them science, technology, engineering, and math.
English. Can a kid go to a straight wedding?
If their parent wants them to do that, but that's not supposed to be something that should be happening at the school level. That the parent should decide that. So if a parent wanted to take their kid to a gay wedding, I don't know, because the kid grew up with two mothers or two fathers, have at it. Yeah, but I mean, we've gone well past that.
I mean, I think when it kind of comes down to it is you are entitled to raise your kid how you want to raise them. And I'm not saying you raise a bunch of hateful people, but I mean, people have a core belief system. And I just have a problem with any type of local or federal government getting involved and like kind of overcrossing boundaries when it comes to children. They aren't U.S. government property. They're your kids. And having anyone tell you how to raise your kid, I think we get a little bit problematic. It gets a little bit problematic in my
opinion. Gay or straight.
Or
any, right.
I mean,
got it.
If a parent wants to take their kid to a gay wedding, go ahead. Straight wedding, go ahead. Personally, as someone, I don't want no kids at my wedding, but that's a whole different discussion because it's crying and stuff like that. All jokes aside, but
the kids aren't even wanted in restaurants anymore. You heard what happened in Jersey?
Yeah, no, oh Jesus, yeah, I know. But I think when it kind of comes down to it, is that it's up to the individual parent to make that decision. You can't have a school system or a local government dictate the belief system upon children. I mean, that's up to like the parents, the one raising it. And that's why you see a lot of people kind of leery of going into the public school system. It's funny, right? My sister, staunch Democrat. She is a Elizabeth Warren lover. She loves Elizabeth Warren. Funny enough,
that's why. And
the 1/64th of her that's Native American.
And the 1/64th of her that's like Cherokee and maybe a smidge Sioux. I think when it kind of comes down to it. Even she's like with the education, she's like, I'm probably going to be sending my kids to a more private schools because like
parochial school, even
parochial schools because it's getting a little too heavy-handed in public schools.
But then you got to worry about them touching your kids
because she's extreme. Well, I mean, listen, I wasn't touched, unfortunately, but anyways,
no.
But that's a whole different story. We'll talk on a different show. That's why I have a big problem with the Catholic churches. There was a priest in the area that affected my classmates, and they never saw a time in jail. That's a whole different conversation. But
You also mad because you didn't get chosen. Like, what's wrong with me?
I
Like,
would
why
be,
you
oh,
doing
am I
this
that ugly? Like, yo, these cheeks is fine, bro. But but
They're pale.
no, like when it kind of comes down to it, is that I think even with certain people that staunch liberal, very at all these events and all that stuff, it gets a little bit too much when it's like heavy-handed. I would be saying the same thing if like public schools were making like them oh, you have to say prayer, you have to say like our fathers and stuff like that. Like, nah, like keep that shit. Like, let parents raise their kids and develop their core belief systems, and then when people get older, as we all like, we probably all don't have the same beliefs as our parents, right? Or maybe we might have similarities, but we're not a copy exact clone of our parents. Like, let people evolve over time. That's kind of my stance on it. Just I think some of the laws that are getting passed, or some of the even literature that's trying to go into the school system, it's like, I mean, is this really important? Like, let's teach these kids fundamental math skills, fundamental English schools. Hell, let's pick up a history book so we don't doom to repeat our fucking mistakes of the past, which, for whatever reason, we always do as a human race. But I mean, that's my stance on it.
But also,
what you're seeing right now, though, is I think it's in Florida in particular. It's that whole "Don't Say Gay" bill, which I know is left-leaning rephrasing of the bill. I don't know the name of the actual law that passed there.
I think that's a problem in public discourse.
It's the parental control bill, but yeah, go ahead.
Right. But one of the real impacts of it has been school districts in Florida having to clear out their entire shelves of libraries because now they have to scrutinize through each book to see if there's even a mention of an LGBTQ character.
Yeah,
because
I think
if that's
that goes
in
too
there,
far.
that has to come off the shelves.
That's stupid. Yeah,
I think if the main theme of the book is sexuality, then you can save it for the public library when they're older. But if the law is written exactly as you say it, I think that's just beyond the pale.
I did a video actually with Lutch regarding this because I remember it's been a bit though since that I'd have to really look into it. It was really more just about parental control, about what their kids partake with certain things. So
that was one of the intention. Like, I think they're trying to crack down on like explicit sex scenes that might be written.
Yeah, I mean, like a little bit over the top. Yeah.
But
I don't have
another caveat to that was really honing in on, is there a trans character in here? Not appropriate. Get it out. Even if they're not even.
That's not the focus.
Yeah, like if it's
I have a problem with that because
actually
trans people exist.
So one of the more famous cases of it, I can't believe I've taken this long to bring this one up, but I think the book is called "And Tango Makes Three." It's a real story. I don't know how true to the story it stays, because it's about two penguins who are males that raised a baby penguin. They got banned out of a school district.
But I think that does happen in a while sometimes.
Right, but because
it's an anomaly,
we need to get rid of it.
Right, it's an anomaly, but it does happen in the wild. Yeah, so I think we agree on that level.
Yeah. I just wanted to provide more examples.
Yeah. I mean, I like, for me, like when it kind of comes to the whole book burning type shit, like when Christians were burning Harry Potter books back in the day, that shit was wild. Yeah. I mean, with certain narratives, all for me though is like when it gets sexual content, whether it be straight too. Like I think I've made that apparent. It's like certain content is not for children, and I think it's like if you're telling a story and there's a gay character in there, cool. But if it's like overtly sexual, whether it be gay, straight, bi, whatever, that's where it kind of gets into an area where I'm not okay with it, because it's like it's weird too. I think as a whole, as a society, we over sexualize a lot of things in life, and I think children are overly exposed to sexual things they shouldn't be, just because a lot of parents raise their kids through iPads these days and don't take them outside to do things. That's a whole different conversation again. But I'm fine with gay characters in books and stuff like that, because they do exist. Trans characters,
as long as it's not just like this,
as long as it's not
book.
overtly sexual. Yeah, as long as it's not like, let's plow each other for like 150 pages. Like that's
yeah.
Like
plow through these pages.
You didn't read that book in school? That was a fun one.
What book?
Let's plow through these pages. No, but I will say something a little bit different, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. I think that parents teaching their kids about sexuality is a positive thing, because I think that a lot of times kids end up being victims of SA because their parents refrain from having the conversations at all. And I think that there are some parents that socialize their kids to be very in touch with their own personal nudity, with their own bodies, to understand what feels good and what doesn't feel good, what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. And I think that those kids are less likely to be convinced to go hang out with somebody, behind the building where nobody can see, and things of that nature. I think that kids who are a little bit more educated on their bodies in general, I think that could possibly be a good thing, as long as it is at home and not, taught by somebody else with no real dog in the fight as far as that child's legacy, or the legacy that child represents, with their own biases and in their own agendas. I think that each set of parents should be very active, because if, especially these, and this is where I think that these conservatives are pretty lazy. They don't want anybody in the school teaching their kids about sex, but then they just say you're going to go to hell if you touch your pleasure spot. That doesn't do anything. That's not. So if you really want your child to grow up the way you want them to grow up, then you're going to have to be a little bit more forthcoming with the information. That's just my opinion.
Actually, this is a memory long forgotten, but it just it's back in my head. I do remember in like elementary school, I want to say it might have been like first, second grade. It was a big school assembly where the lesson being taught to all of us as kids was, this is inappropriate touching. Like this happens
Pedo
to
bear?
you. Yeah, and I mean, it was probably, yeah. But yeah, I feel like I do remember like a little bit of like a friendly looking mascot on stage, and it's like, oh, don't let him touch you here, don't let him touch you there. Like it was a whole thing. I'm probably misremembering some details of it, but I don't think a lesson like that would necessarily be worth eliminating from a school system, just because kind of like what you were getting at is that not every parent is going to go to that level.
But we should hold them accountable. Drew, we should hold them accountable to teach their fucking kids.
The problem is who pays the cost? If we rely solely on the kid though too, right? If he doesn't learn the lesson or she doesn't learn the lesson.
No, what I'm saying is we should hold the parents accountable to teach the lesson. That should be in our culture.
I mean, to be fair,
I'm saying we would have that as part of our culture, to not treat sex as if it's like doomsday, like you're burning in hell because there's a sexual conversation, or God forbid you have a sexual feeling when you're going through puberty. Like, I think that we should make it in our society something where the parents can openly talk to their kids about it, and then you eliminate the need for it in the schools. Because again, if you don't teach your kids, somebody else will.
I mean, that's a fair point. I think in Europe, I'll give Europe in this. In certain European countries, they're a little bit far better off when it comes to this education. But I mean, yeah, parents should be a little bit more held to task to teach their own kids. And I don't think there's inherently wrong with teaching them, like, yo, don't, this isn't right. If you feel this or something like that, like teaching your kids. Like, parents are afraid. Some parents, not all. Some parents are generally afraid of like talking with those type of topics with their kids, and they shouldn't.
They weren't afraid to make them kids.
I mean,
you better open your goddamn mouth.
And I think when it kind of comes down to it is when
what were you going to say, Drew? Sorry.
I think I was just chuckling a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Continue.
I think when it comes down to having good parents is doing the right thing. That be pretty much one of the prerequisites to make sure that your kid does stay safe. And having maybe a course like that or an assembly like that where it's like don't touch stuff like that, I'm fine with. Because
with or without pedo bear.
Jesus, coming down to just keeping kids safe. But I mean, as for education, sexual stuff with kids, yeah, I mean, that way, like if a coach or a mentor does something that is kind of borderline weird, the kid kind of understands that's not appropriate, right? Because that's why you feel like a lot of SA victims happen, especially at a young age, because they don't understand what's going on in these feelings, and people take advantage of that. So, I mean, that's why there definitely needs to be some form of education with it. So,
yeah. But I don't think that I should have to pay for educations that parents can just give to their kids.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but in a perfect world, yeah, I agree.
Right.
I think
I know I'm
think
talking idealist right now, but
you're talking
But
about
I
idealist.
think that assembly I attended was maybe 1 hour out of my entire elementary education. Which how much money is that then?
I mean, did
Probably
it
a few
help you
$100.
protect your PP for the rest of your life?
Hey, and you know what? I'm glad I had the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that it might have been more beneficial to hear it from your parents in a more comprehensive way that I think is more beneficial, because I think that we all kind of have like this ingrained fear of sex in very many ways, and I just think it would be just a lot better if we are taught by our parents the same way we're taught to respect the sanctity or the gravity of certain things, but not to actually fear it. And the parents showing the level of fear that they do, I think that it really does. It's a huge disservice to the whole world.
So, I will say this because I got to start heading now because I got to start taking
Yeah.
my medications. I got to get something to eat for my hip. But I do want to say
Fucking
relax. I do appreciate you coming on here, whether we agree or disagree. I think the main thing is us just having a civil discourse on it and kind of trying to come maybe up with a solution that, hey, maybe there's a better avenue here.
Did you like my solution, Drew?
The one
The
day fits
option,
all.
the multi option, including LGBT, and then everybody does the pregame skate. Maybe they do like a ceremony, and then everybody gets to choose what cause that they want to represent, and do the auction or present the jerseys and all that stuff.
I can appreciate what you're trying to solve there, but I don't have a problem with really any of the heritage. Is heritage the right word? Yeah, I think heritage is what
We'll use that term.
But yeah, I don't think I have a problem with really any of the heritage nights as they currently exist. I know that the Flyers had a little bit of negative feedback, but as you guys pointed out, there's a huge jersey sale day for them all at the same time. But I also think that, as also has been pointed out here, the only people that see them are the people that go to the games.
And that's less than 10% of the people because they don't show up until game time.
But honestly, I'm guessing you have a huge influx of people who are LGBTQ that showed up at that warm up because I have a gay kid who wanted to see their favorite players out there wearing their jersey. And so they do get to see that.
Do we have any footage? Do we have any footage of how many people were in the crowd in Philadelphia?
I guess I don't know for sure,
because
but
that could affect the way that I view the subject.
I know I've seen people on Twitter comment about how it was great to see the jerseys or whatever. If everybody's lying on Twitter, then that could be a possibility. But we're also using,
or maybe they just
Twitter.
saw pictures of it on social media. You know what I mean?
It could also be that.
Because nobody shows up for pregame warm-ups unless you're like the diehard kids that really want a puck from a player, like really, really badly.
Yeah. But even if it is just people reacting to the pictures on social media, you're still leaving a positive impact on people who are in that community. And I think that is a valuable thing for those people.
All right.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, whether, like I said, whether we agree, disagree, I do appreciate you coming on here. I think it was a really good conversation. I know we went all over the place with the conversation, but
I wasn't ready to talk about Elizabeth Warren's ancestry.
No, we just mentioned her to take the piss. That's what we do here.
But I do think it was a conductive,
productive.
It was a conductive conversation.
What we on a train?
Yeah, we are. Fuck you. I'm exhausted, dude. The pills.
Speak English, motherfucker.
He's saying it was not productive. I think, right? Con versus pro.
A productive
Con versus pro. Yeah. What are you trying to say?
A productive conversation, and I appreciate it. It may be some, I guess, say preconceived
notions.
Sorry, preconceived notions that you had of me.
Sorry, he can't spell. He's got a broken hip.
Bro, shut the fuck up, dude. Ugh, you're so annoying. But yeah.
And just real quick, I do want to thank you guys for letting me have a chance to speak here. I was a little afraid that this might be an ambush/trap.
Hell
so I'm glad it wasn't that. And no offense to you guys. Sorry, I just had no idea who you guys were. But no, I do appreciate you guys for also altering your schedule a little bit so that I could get in here to talk as well. And also, I don't know how many people are watching. I don't have this on Twitch or anything, but to help you guys drive engagement, you can find me in his comment section and go ahead and roast me for all the bad things I said.
No,
I'm sure they want more attention to these videos.
No, we don't. No, we don't allow that here. We don't allow attacking of people. We have very few rules, and one of the rules is attacking people. Now, if they want to disagree with your points, they have to stick to the subject, or the comment gets deleted. We are very serious about that here. Like you see, we take the piss, and we do a lot of chiding and stuff like that. We take that very, very seriously. We don't do that here. We don't take that from the left wing, and we don't take that from MAGA people. Like, we can have the conversation. We can be respectful. That's what this is for. And I really do want to say, because the thing is, I thought that and this is why, like, going back and forth in text is so dangerous in a way.
It can get heated real fast.
But it's not just that. A lot of context is lost when you're trying to infuse context into words on a screen. Now, we're three guys just sitting here having a conversation, doing what it do, and we're getting to know each other as human beings, not just faceless fucking screen names. No, we're actual human beings. I mean, you are still faceless.
I'm quite faceless at the moment.
But you're an actual human being who, the thing is, you'll find out that most people are more reasonable than you assume when you just look at words on a piece of paper. And so I really you're the first guest of your kind that we've allowed on here. And that is because you earned that consideration here to speak your piece in your views and your beliefs, because the way that you did it was respectful. It was admirable, considering what we normally get in these types of discourse. So I really do want to thank you for letting us borrow about 2.5 hours of your afternoon. And I just, I'm very grateful for your contribution. And of course, we would love for you to be part of the TSP community. We do a lot of MMA stuff on Saturdays, me and Mrs. Evil, the first lady of the home. We cover all the UFC events. And we have a lot of conversations about a lot of different topics. Tomorrow's show at 11, we're going to be talking about what's going on with these banks, Silicon Valley Bank and all these other banks. And we're going to touch on a bunch of other topics. You are more than welcome to be part of the community. If you feel like you have offered all you can for this community, I want to wish you the best in all of your future endeavors. For real, not the WWE version of that, where you're being fired.
And I mean, listen, if you want some, if you do want a decent hockey content, because that's I really do not like to get political on the hockey channel. I mean, feel free. I have no hard feelings. If we agree to disagree, there's no, qualm over here from that. You know what I mean? I'd rather just come to a more cohesive solution so we can make it better. That's all.
I'll say that I've not hit the do not recommend this channel on YouTube. So I'm sure I will see more videos in the future, especially with how many comments I put on the other one. So YouTube's like, oh, he likes this. He likes this. Let's give him more of that.
He's engaged. We get more ad revenue.
See, and that is a social media problem right there, right?
Massive. We'll talk about that later on too, because of the psychological impact of Narcigram and the other social medias, the TikToks and all of that, and everything that they do. In fact, it's and Dan Jensen appreciates you too. And I know for sure he disagrees with you. And so if he's saying thanks for showing up, he really does appreciate you, because he has very pointed opinions. But yeah, I'm very, very grateful that you lent us some of your time and your viewpoints. And this was a really cool chat. Sorry that I got a little bit forceful because I can get a little bit passionate. So apologies for.
All right, well, the cripple's gonna go get some medicine. And
Look at this cripple ass nigga! Look at this fucking cripple!
So I'm gonna go there because you're gonna drag this motherfucker on forever.
Nah, we up out of here. Thank you very much, Drew. If you want to stay in our Discord, please do so. Also, if you want to us to cover any topics, as you guys always know, Talking Shit Podcast LLC at gmail.com. We're on Narsagram, Twitch, and Twitter at talkin_sh_t. If you're watching on a different platform, youtube.com/at TALKINSISSHIT. Can I spell, motherfucker? And as always,
talking shit.
Well, this is the Talking Shit Podcast, asshole. I'm the Toxic Masculine, Dr. Evil Genius. That's Captain Paul. And down there is the Headless Horseman, Drew. And we up out of here. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.